Okay,
Good
all
morning.
set.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for everyone who's on the panel for being here and whomever's watching. Uh, Welcome to, I almost did this again, June. It's not June. October 20th, Town of Newcastle Town Board Work Session regarding our budget. If I can have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jill, I'm going to kick it over to you to get things rolling, please.
All right, so we're starting this morning with our DPW budget. Specifically, we're going to start with refuse. We've got Bart Carey, our Commissioner of Public Works. We've got Mike Sicali, who is our foreman for recycling unit. We've also got Tom Costello, our Assistant Commissioner, and Julia Golden, who runs the place. So we're all prepared. Bart, Mike, I'll kick it over to you guys.
All right, good morning, everybody. So we have a number of units of DPW to go through, and we want to get started this morning with the refuse district. Michael is going to present the budget on that. I'm sure, as obviously you're all aware, it was a new contract that we're putting in place for collection. The current contract expires at the end of this year, and we definitely had some challenges with that and made 2 attempts to try to get a better contract.
If you could just very quickly just explain, or I will, that we made 2 attempts and we only had 1 bid on each of those attempts, the same folks. And if there's anything else you want to share on that, please do. And I would just ask also, if you're referencing anything in the budget, if you have a particular page you can just point us to as you're referencing it, that would be terrific as well. Thank you.
Great. All right, thanks. Michael's going to take it away.
Good morning, everybody. As far as my name is Michael Sicali. I'm the foreman for the recycling department. We had a interesting year. As Jeremy alluded to, our contract ended this year, so we had to go out to bid, which we did twice. Unfortunately, the first time we only got 1 bid, so we went back out, and unfortunately, the second time we only had 1 bid. So we will be sticking with the same contract that we had last year. And unfortunately, the refuse market as a whole, nationwide, and the recycling market is not in a good place. There are a lot of COVID is really. It was unsteady to begin with, and COVID has really amped that up. So unfortunately, our bid was not what we expected. Into that later, but that's the big news of the refuse department this year. Some good
Mike,
news.
can I just?
Yes.
I'll just chime in that kind of a little bit different from the past. I think the last 2 contracts we had with Sanipro were 7-year contracts. They kind of locked both sides in, and throughout the length of both of those contracts, even though Sanipro has been a valued partner and they provide great service for the town, at points during those couple 7-year contracts, both sides were a little unhappy when the market shifted and Sanipro needed to come back to us and ask us for more money. There was a situation there. We had to under the prior contract, when we shifted from 2 collections to 1 collection a week, we probably didn't receive the most bang for our buck at that point. They did agree to reduce the annual cost, but probably not by as much as it could have been. So, there's been a long history there, but our current contract is, I think, 3 years with the potential to extend, I think, 2 1-year extensions if we so choose. So that will give us a little more flexibility in the shorter term if market conditions change during that period of time, rather than being locked in for 7 years.
Right, Robin. The only other thing I want to mention is that we did, when the board agreed to the new contract, one of the things that we assured them is that we would go out and see what our options actually were. At some point, bringing operations in-house is something that is the fiscally responsible thing to do. We're not sure that it is in this case, but the good thing about the 3-year contract is it will allow us the opportunity to take and actually explore whether bringing the collection operation in-house is something that makes financial sense for us. The problem with refuse and recycling is it's not just the collection, it's the actual disposal. And even if we were to bring collection on board, which involves, trucks and additional personnel, where do you put the stuff? Where does it go? And that's something that Sanipro has worked out because they've been doing this for years, and we would certainly be newbies to to the marketplace. But anyway, we're going to explore it nonetheless so that the board is very comfortable that we have picked the right, model going forward. And, we'll see what that analysis holds, but thanks.
Do we know if any of our surrounding neighboring towns are negotiating their waste contracts now? Do we know if anybody's having similar experience?
So we actually reached out to neighboring communities. A vast majority of them are in the county refuse district. We have explored that as well, so that our contract would only be for collection, and then we would join in with the county. But that actually is more expensive than our current option, because we'd have to buy into the district. It's something that we've never, been a part of. We've always been in a position that our refuse contract was actually more economical than joining the counties. Right now, it's probably neck and neck or still a little bit cheaper. But there's a long history of surrounding communities taking and participating with the county. And at this point, for us to be able to join, I think, Mike, I'm not exaggerating. It is an additional $1 million for us to join the district at this late stage.
Yes, I believe it's, I don't have the exact numbers, but I believe it's over more than $1 million.
Yeah. So.
Right, and the disposal costs with the county district are basically 3 times what we're paying now. One of the communities we keep a close eye on is North Castle. They're a direct neighbor. They are also not in the county waste district. Santa Pro is also their provider. They're a similar town to us. Their contract expires, I think it's a year or 2 from now, so it's within our 3-year contract. So we will be taking a close eye to see what happens with their contract renewal. And then I just wanted to point out so quickly, to make this happen, there is a user fee per household that covers the refuse district, and that's going to be $526 in the 2022 budget. It's currently $440, and it has been $440 for a number of years. Many years back, it was actually, I think, $520, and we actually lowered it when we switched to once per week collection. So we're going back up in the neighborhood of where we were at one point several years ago, and there's also a large amount of fund balance being used to phase this in, right, Rob? So that fee will actually be going up as well.
Yeah, so Bart's correct. In order to kind of, and I talked to the board, I think a couple times about this when we discussed it, and I kind of laid out what I have as a 4-year plan to kind of level off with tax increases and kind of slowly whittling down the appropriation of fund balance. We've used a significant amount this year, over 800,000. We have over $2 million in fund balance in the refuse fund, which is a pretty good number at this point. But we felt like it was prudent in order to stay under the tax cap and to kind of smooth out the increase for the residents. We've kind of spread this out over 4 years. So as Bart said, in this top line that you see here, real property taxes, you see that amount goes up by close to $500,000. And that equates to about an increase of about $86 per household. And this is a per household cost. This is not ad valorem as most of the rest of the budget is taxed on. This is a per parcel cost. So that's $86 per parcel. And then we're using, where is it? You see $876,000 in fund balance. So I did show the board over a 4-year plan. We will in the 4th year begin to restore some of that fund balance. And at the end of that 4-year schedule, we will, there won't be any further tax increases related to this change in contract, and we should have the fund balance over the 15% mark, which is what the auditors in the state would like to see. So It's gonna take a while to get to that point, but we'll get there.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, Bart and Mike, if you want to continue,
Okay.
I've got the revenue showing up on the
We're down
screen.
page 191.
Yeah.
This is our revenue, the recycling revenue. Couple big numbers. The second one down is yard waste. You know, we started off a little slow this year. We were in open full time until I think it was May. So we didn't accept as much as we generally do. But I believe yard waste will pick up. We're having a later fall than normal. But once those leaves fall off the trees, we should see a huge increase in that number. And I'm hoping to meet our current projected number. The line underneath it is lacking, unfortunately. Compost bags, bins, and tires, same thing. The recycling center was closed for a while, and even when it did open, we were slow to see people come back. I think people were just fearful. A lot of things they could do, recycling are done at home, so they were buying bags elsewhere. They were buying them online. They just didn't feel comfortable coming in. Again, we're starting to see that increase as well. As things get better, people are starting to feel more comfortable, being normal, and they are starting to come in. Scrap metal, we had a good year only because the water department found a bunch of old meters that they turned in, and it really helped our numbers. Compost and mulch sales were higher than expected this year. I believe that's because so many residents are home. They're doing a lot of home improvements. I don't know if that's going to continue next year. We'll see a big increase like that. Again, I believe just because everybody was home and they want to see their home, so they want their yard to look nicer. So I put a little more effort in it. So that number is up for the year. If you could turn the page, go to expenses, which I believe is 195. This is refuse expenses.
194, I think it starts, Mike.
You're correct, Ralph, 194. Thank you. This first page really is no big items on here. Stand out. It's pretty much basic office supplies, apartment supplies, things of that nature. 195 is where a lot of our larger numbers are. The recycling containers, we're in the process of ordering. Once we made the bid, once we accepted the bid from Santa Pro, and we decided to stay with dual stream because that was a question at one point. I ordered some totes, the 18-gallon totes that we see all over town. So those are being ordered as we speak. So that number, unfortunately, that budget will be used up for that. Next big item down is the maintenance and repair, line item 8160-0480. That's the money we used to repair the 4700, the horizontal grinder, as well as the screener we have on our Middlewood site. That number is not accurate. We recently just unfortunately put a clutch on the our 2004 horizontal grinder, which will eat up a lot of that budget. And we also have some work to do on the Phoenix screener. So I would expect that we will probably make our final current projection. That money will most likely be used up. Skip down 2 more lines. That's contractual services. That is actually the collection of our garbage, refuse, yard waste, and recycling. As we spoke earlier, we saw a huge increase in our new contract, more than a much higher percentage than we all anticipated. There's a lot of uncertainty there, and that's what we expect, and we think that number that we're asking for is a fair number and will suit our budget. Skip down 2 more lines. That's transfer site charges. That is disposal. That's how we pay for the garbage. Our current contract shows only a 9% increase from last year's cost per tonnage. But unfortunately, where our garbage is going to in Peekskill Road, they have had a lot of closures lately. And when they do have closures, we have to take it to other sites. And then the price increases dramatically. It goes from a 9% increase from last year to roughly a 20% increase. And Wheelabrator has been closing, they used to close a couple of days here and there. Recently, they're closing for weeks. And and Santa Pro is forced to bring it to other sites, and where he doesn't have as much pull, and unfortunately our cost goes up. So that's where you see a huge increase there. We also had to increase on the next line. We had to also increase the senior citizen charges because backdoor charges and part of our new contract for the seniors that cost has gone up, like all the other costs in our refuse contract with Santa Pro. So we had to expect that.
So Mike, just remind the board, the senior citizen charges, that's where we subsidize the cost for senior citizens for that pickup, right? So we actually charge a portion of that pickup to this budget line.
Yes, residents, any resident in Newcastle is entitled to, through Santa Pro, opt for backdoor service. But our seniors, they get a 75% discount, which the town picks up, and that's what that item is for. I'm sorry for not explaining that further. Our last main item is vehicle maintenance and repair. That's for all the trucks that we use in recycling. For any problems, we have two large trucks and 4 smaller trucks, so just basic repairs on those. I don't see any reason we should hit our current projection. I'm hoping that number comes in a little lower than what we're expecting as we close to the year. I don't foresee any major issues, so that actually may stay roughly where it is. I believe that's all the larger items that we have. Is there any questions?
So far, so good, relatively speaking. Thank you.
Any other members of the board have any questions on the refuse and recycling? Otherwise, we'll let Mike.
Yeah, I just tell people in the public who may watch us that Mike and Bart and everyone, we've been having updates on the issues, with the grinder, with the recycling, with Santa Pro along the way. This is not something that all of a sudden was sprung upon us. So we've been prepared as best we can and certainly are aware of what's going on.
All right. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you so
About
much.
his day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Everyone have a nice day.
Thank you. Be well.
All right, Bart, where do you want to go from here?
I'd like to go to the highway
All right,
fund next.
highway revenue starts on page 155. Not much on this page, but Bart, maybe you want to cover the CHIPS funding if I can find that. Yep.
And just explain what CHIPS is very briefly for people who may not know.
So the CHIPS funding comes from New York State Department of Transportation, and that's to provide us funds for permanent improvements on the roads. We use that money primarily for road paving. There are a couple of other things that we could use it for that the program allows, but road paving is exclusively how we have been using it for the benefit of the town. Also included in that number is two other programs the state has, and that's Pave New York, and that's funding that also comes in to help pave roads. And then we also get an index based on the weather, severe weather index, and those all go into that state aid CHIPS funding. This past year, the state increased the CHIPS substantially for the town. It was over $100,000. And we have been consistently getting the Pave New York that was started several years ago, and the weather adjustments. So we felt that it was time to increase that on the revenue side as well. You could see in 2019, our actual was 316,000 something. And we've been putting 225,000 for a while. So we felt it was time to increase that. We're still being conservative with the number. So that the highway budget as presented seeks to maintain the services we have, the level of road paving, and to stay up on top of all the complaints that we get in here also, if you go down to the expenses, Rob, on the next page. That would be 158.
158, yep, and maybe you want to start with the salaries part and mention the labor position.
Yes, yes. So in here we have an additional laborer over what we currently have. In the year 2020, we had 14 people in the highway department. We went down to 13 people in 2021, and we did that with some retirements based on attrition and lowering the amount that we requested for this year. So in trying to get back up to the number that we're at, 14 people, we have requested the funding for an additional laborer. There is definitely a need. We have a high workload in the highway department. We get requests in all the time. At the beginning of this year, we started a tracker program. We had a new office assistant start, Mark Holcomb, and he's pretty computer savvy. So he put together a spreadsheet, and the office has been using that to track all the requests that we get on the phone and through the DPW at mynewcastle.org email address. So we have closed out at least 200 service requests. This is all on top of the proactive work that we do, that we know we need to do, the routine maintenance. But unfortunately, we still have at least 200 open requests, despite our best efforts to stay on top of that. So, we end up prioritizing stuff that needs to get done sooner rather than later, and other stuff has to wait. It's not something we like to tell people, but that's the reality, is that we're doing the best we can to keep up with all of the requests. We have to prioritize them, and there are some that have to wait. So having this extra person will definitely help us to improve there. And we're always trying to find ways to be more efficient so that we're getting the most done in the time that we have with the staff working.
So Bart, these are things like, Rob Greenstein had instituted a number of, easily remembered email addresses like potholes@mynewcastle.org and things like that. So these are responses to requests for pothole repairs, brush in the right of way. These probably all sound very familiar to the town board. Very often they're copied or they actually are the originators of the requests. We've got a lot of state roads that run through town that New York State DOT is responsible for the maintenance on, but all the other roads are, there are responsibility as far as cutting brush back goes, storm drains that are, clogged with leaves, things like that. And I would assume that with the intensity and frequency of the storms that we've received, there's a tremendous uptick after those for service calls to DPW as well.
Yes, absolutely. Anytime those major rainfall events come through, they cover over storm drains. They all need to have the tops cleaned off. They need to be cleaned out inside with the vacuum truck periodically. There's over 2,000 catch basins in town, and over time they disintegrate. Some of them are precast concrete, some of them were built out of blocks, but you'll get the common complaint, and it's one we try to avoid, but you'll see little holes developing around these catch basins, and then we have to put cones on it until we can get there. But it's easy to go put the cone, but sometimes those repairs could be like 2 days to fix one of those catch basins. So we do end up getting a backlog, but we always strive not to have the orange cones sitting out there for any length of time, because it's not something we want to see. We know the residents don't want to see it. So we try to get them done as quickly as we can, but then also connected to those catch basins is all of the underground storm drain pipes, which are in need of cleaning out and replacement. Also, a lot of them are corrugated metal pipes that have a lifespan of 35 or 40 years, and a lot of them, they have holes in them, and we need to dig them them up and replace them. That's something we always look at before we pave a road to make sure that the drainage pipes are in good condition. But there's always a continuous list of pipes to be replaced and basins to repair. And then, like Jill said, we get the potholes. There's site distance vegetation. There's trees that we need to look at that are in the right of way. Sometimes they're on private property, but we go out and pull the surveys and take a look. There's signs. There's a lot that goes on in the highway department. There's a lot of stuff to do and to keep up with.
Can you just, could you just clarify the replacement headcount? Is that's a road crew personnel or is that office personnel?
That's a road crew personnel.
Great.
Yeah, and the salary of a laborer is 48,000, just for reference.
Right. And so despite adding a person, the salary line, I believe, has actually gone down. And that's just because we had a bunch of people retire. And so we have several new people who start at the lowest rate. So the overtime line, I did request an additional $10,000 for next year. The overtime here is used for paving, for when trees are down, for storms. This is not snow overtime that comes later in the highway budget. So this is all of the other overtime throughout the year outside of the winter time. Longevity has gone down. That's because employees don't get longevity until they've been here for 5 years, and we do have a whole bunch of new people. Our part-time help, we have the same request. Usually every summer we try to get 2 people, seasonal employees, to help out, and that's a tremendous benefit to us, just because everybody else is taking vacation and days here and there, and we're doing extra projects in summer, so having those 2 extra seasonal staff are a tremendous help. So we have our equipment requests line is the same as this year, and we use that to get various equipment. We have a road saw for cutting the roads when we do excavations. There's other smaller saws and pumps and small generators and stuff like that is replaced on a routine basis. So that's what that line covers. We have a request for $30,000 for a vehicle. That's for a pickup truck for the highway department. And then if you see down below, the road paving, the request is the same. That's $900,000, but with the increased CHIPS fund, we will have additional money in 2022 for road paving. This year we paved just under 6 miles of road. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, Bart, I was just going to say the other amount for the road paving, there's 2 lines that make up that road paving. The other is permanent improvements, and that's where you see the increase on the expenditure side that reflects the increase in the CHIPS funding. And it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. We move money interchangeably between those 2 lines. Typically, what is the permanent improvements are classified as maybe some of the drainage work and the preparatory work, and then the road paving is usually where we charge the contractors invoices to. So we'll flip through when we get to that page, but just that's why you don't see an increase in that road paving line. It's in the other permanent improvements line.
I just want to hop in here and remind people, and this has sort of been discussed in different ways, but over the past, we constantly get emails and inquiries about when the roads are being paved. The town board does not make that decision on behalf of our DPW. They determine what is in most urgent need, what needs to be repaired. I certainly can't speak much more than that, but it's not something political, and we don't have the ability to alter that schedule. We rely on Bart and his crew to make the right decisions that's best for the town overall.
Yeah, but I think we do make a point, right, of passing requests on to that department when as town board members we receive them.
Certainly, but it's not our decision as the town board.
Yeah, and Jeremy, also the utilities play into that too, because we're in communication with the utilities, and when we know that they're doing gas work or underground work, we will usually hold off paving a road until they're done so that we don't pave one, they rip it back up. And a lot of times we're able to partner with the utilities and we'll share in the cost of repaving so that we're able to get a little bit more done. I think the last time we did that, Bart, where was it? It was somewhere off of, was off Douglas somewhere, wasn't it?
It was Oak Hill Road. That was the last time.
Art, I have a question about equipment in general and, and what we do in terms of evaluating electric options for landscaping equipment, for vehicles. Is this part of our review for understanding our options? And do you have a good feeling for kind of where, let's say commercial grade equipment is going for electric alternatives?
So we do monitor that. We are conscious. We try to be green where we can be with our practices. The reality for public works is there aren't a lot of options. The most recent one would be the leaf blowers. We don't use leaf blowers as much as, like, say, the Parks Department would. So we are looking at that into getting an electric leaf blower. We use those to blow out the water and debris and potholes. But outside of that, and for vehicles, the options that are out there would be only, they're pretty much for sedans, of which we don't have any that we use. We have some hybrid SUVs that they're not hybrid, we've had in the past, and they didn't work out well, but the technology has improved. So we would look to get a hybrid SUV for administration vehicle. But as far as the large trucks and whatnot, the technology just isn't there yet.
Thanks, Bart.
You're welcome. And just to touch on the road paving, again, I mean, you're probably all aware, we have a lot more roads that need to be paved than we have the budget for each year. It has gone up substantially. We did pave just a little less than 6 miles this year. That's around what we have been doing. But there was a large period in around 2010 to 2012 for a few years there where there was hardly any paving done at all. So we keep track of the requests here as well for road paving. And typically when their announcement is out in the e-newsletter that we're paving and the roads we're doing, we'll get some people who will send in a request as well. So the next part of the budget, Rob, I don't know if you want to jump down to 5130, is the highway equipment maintenance. And that's our central garage that takes care of all the fleet of equipment for public works, for town hall, and for the police department. So in our mechanic shop, we have 3 full-time mechanics that take care of all the equipment. There's over 200 pieces of equipment in town amongst all the various departments. This budget doesn't change too much from year to year. In here in the under departmental equipment, we have a request for $16,000, and that's to purchase an additional lift for our shop. So we're finding what's happening is there's a longer lead time to get parts for some of these vehicles for repair. So if they get a vehicle on the lift and they take it apart and we can't get parts for a week, that kind of hinders their operation. So having another lift would give us flexibility. The mechanic shop is, on top of trying to buy parts in advance for stuff that we need. So we have that in our inventory, especially for the winter plow vehicles. We have a number of Ford F-550 plow trucks. So when something goes on one of them, they'll usually buy enough parts so that we have it to fix all of them, so that we're able to get the trucks turned around and back out on the road quickly in the winter time if any quick repairs come up. So we're also trying to stay on top of just our purchasing in general. We have run into issues with supply chain stuff. So our trucks also have a diesel exhaust fluid, which is it's a part of the emissions. And recently we had some trouble getting that. So we've found an alternative supplier and ordered extra. We're also in the process of ordering extra blades for our snow plows. Those are continuously replaced throughout the winter, and we want to make sure that we don't run short on those. Are there any questions on the 5130 budget for the equipment maintenance? All right, if not, then Rob, if we could let's move to page 163. That has that's where we did do the brush and tree work. So in here, our request is for $175,000, and we've been at that level for a couple of years now, and it seems to be working out well. We have renewed contract with Olmsted, that's our tree contractor, and we've been giving them a lot of work. In the past, the budget was $125,000, and we continuously overran that. So the number we have now seems to be working to balance out all of the needs for the requests that we get for trees. And this is largely based on emails, phone calls we get, and concern about trees. On the next page starts the 5142 budget, and that's the snow removal portion of the highway budget. So in here, you'll see that most of these line items are flat. The liquid de-icing has gone down slightly. And that's based on what we've used historically. So the salt number is flat, and we are in good shape right now with salt. We had purchased a lot earlier in the year, and we have been doing well since we had the off winter of 2019, 2020. So we do have a lot of salt in the salt shed. I think it is important to note that the price for salt is going up dramatically this year. Last year it was $56.80 a ton, and now it has gone up to $73.50 a ton. So that's a 29% increase on the per ton price for salt.
And Bart, we usually buy toward the end of the year, right? Don't we like up our salt reserve so we were able to lock in that rate a little bit?
So the rate, it's a state contract price, and it runs basically from the end of August, September to the following year. So it's a winter season salt price, and it's a state contract price. But we'll try to, like this year you'll see we still have money left in the salt line, so we will try to fill up our salt shed before the end of this year. So hopefully that'll take us through a good part of next year. So we are in good shape with our salt budget this year. So sometimes we try to give some of that back, but this year we're going to try to use most of that up to fill up the salt shed this year.
And it's always a fine line because we have a minimum that we need to purchase and we have to submit an estimate at the beginning of the year of what we're going to purchase and we have to purchase a minimum amount. But we have, if we go over, Bart, we pay a premium too, correct?
Correct, yeah, so every spring we have to give the state a number, and they use that to go out to bid for the whole state, and usually we give them, it's around, I think, 3,500 tons. And if we go 120% over that number, then there's a penalty and the rate increases substantially. There also is a minimum, I think it's either 70 or 75% of the number that we give them, we have to buy. So we do, the Rob said, try to balance that. And so also in that, on the next page, you'll see the overtime request is the same. In some years that works well, and some it doesn't. We just don't know exactly how the winter will go. You'll see back in 2019, it was $245,000 that was spent, but in 2020 it was only $55,000.
If you look at the snow costs over like a 10-year period, these are close to the averages of what we would spend. Like Bart said, some years we are over and some years we are under. It's difficult to predict the weather.
Rob, on that front, I know we have contingency lines in case things go one way or the other. And by one way or the other, I mean the weather, and it costs us more. We don't have a line specifically that we can build out over time for weather emergencies. So the 100-year storm, that's every 5 years now, as it seems. We have backup there. Can you just explain what money we would be dipping into if we don't have a specific line for weather emergencies? That could be, for example, help with the NYPD, geez. Help with the Newcastle PD. We can help them with the Newcastle PD and DPW.
Sure, there's not, you're right, there's not a specific line for that, but we have healthy fund balances in all of these funds. So in any individual year, if you overexpend these budget lines, that's where it's going to come from, is fund balance. So I mean, you could create additional contingencies in each of these budgets, but it's additional tax dollars when you do that, and to do that, and you may or may not need that. That's why it's prudent to carry a number of, like a minimum of 15% fund balance in these funds for such a rainy day. And I'll go back to the back-to-back. I think it was around 2011, 12, 13 when we had hurricanes Irene and was Sandy the other one?
Sandy, yep.
We had them 2 years in a row, and we actually had significant expenses there. We had roads that were in need of repair. We had a lot of brush and tree removal that we had to pay for, and we actually ended up getting funded for a lot of that. I think a good $500,000 or so from FEMA, but that reimbursement took over a period of 3 years to get all that money back. So at the time we had the fund balance, it wasn't an issue for us to have the cash to be able to pay as we go. And then the fund balance was replenished when we got the reimbursements from FEMA.
So the bottom line is it's being considered, and it's just not going to a specific line for that purpose.
Yeah, that's correct.
And that's why those fund balances are so important to maintain, because then we're not in a position where we're overtaxing. Because those rainy day events, you're absolutely right. That 100-year storm is now a usual occurrence, and that's how we make sure that we've got enough in the bank without having to raise taxes on a regular basis to cover those contingencies.
And it does take literally years to get back. I mean, we're still working on the paperwork with FEMA for Isaias from summer of 2020.
Thank you both.
And you can rest assured that there is significant paperwork in the works for Ida, and actually even Henri. So.
All right, Bart, anything else you want to cover in the highway budget?
No, I just open it up if there's any other questions on the highway budget.
Only to remind you, if you have something to auction, make sure you let Jill know.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done really well on the auctions. Well, I'm gonna have to get you those numbers.
You guys have really sincerely done a Herculean job, and we're very grateful. You really run a tight ship, and the men and women who do this are terrific. So we're extremely proud of you guys.
We appreciate the recognition. Thank you, Jeremy. Everybody here it's a big team effort, and especially when the storms happen, everybody knows the priority and that we're here for the residents and to try to get things back to normal for them as soon as possible. So if we could move into the water budget next, please.
170, Bart?
174, it looks like the actual expense or revenues begin.
So in the revenue lines, the tax line is staying flat, and the water sales are largely driven by how much rain we get. So it's always a best guess. It's just like the snow clearing and salt with the highway budget. The water sales will largely depend on how much rain we get because they're driven. The high end sales are driven by irrigation needs throughout the water system. So this here is a best guess at what we will have for next year. On the next page, you'll see at the top it starts with hydrant rentals. And that's continued revenue. So that will go up slightly in 2022. That's based on the contracts that we have with the fire districts. And those are 5-year contracts that will be coming to a close. So we'll need to redo those contracts with the fire districts next year. The next line, sale of taps, that's for new water services. And you'll see a big increase here, and that is because we're expecting to install a number of water service lines for the Toll Brothers East Village development in 2022.
When do we expect that to go? When do we expect that, Jill? When do we expect that to go online? Meaning to be completed?
To be completed?
Yeah.
I think the building permits are only expected to be issued either this year or early next year. Right, Rob? That's when we're expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm not sure how long it actually takes them to construct, but certainly they're going to be up and actively building site improvements, things like that, starting early 2022, if not late 2021.
Yeah, that's why you saw a little bit of the bump in the building permits in the general fund, and you're seeing a little bit with the sale of taps here in the water fund.
Yeah, they're really raring to go. So
Right.
Right. Yeah, we don't know for sure. I mean, we know it's what 91 units, so we're figuring that we're going to do definitely a portion next year for sure. The next line, cross connection, that is for fees we get when applications are submitted for backflow devices. And we've seen a little bit of an uptick in that because people are putting in more pools and irrigation systems and stuff that requires a backflow device. And that mostly wraps up the revenue section of the water district budget. Sorry, go down to page 177. There's still revenue from Pleasantville. There's an estimate there for the fixed cost from Pleasantville and the variable cost. And then there's also the appropriated fund balance. Rob, I don't know if you want to speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, that's just, if you look over the years, we've just kind of adjusted that fund balance. The water fund has had a healthy fund balance. So we've always taken appropriations and in many years, in fact, I don't remember a year where we've used all of the fund balance that we appropriated. Typically, because it's so difficult to predict the revenue in the water fund, we're usually pretty conservative. So, we've appropriated fund balance there. It's similar to what we've used in years past, or what we have appropriated in years past.
Okay, so the next page begins with the expenses. And here you'll see the salaries are down slightly, and that is like the highway department. That's contributable to the number of retirements that we had and the number of new employees that we have in the department. So there's 7 full-time employees. 2 of them, the supervisor and the assistant supervisor, have been here for a number of years. One of the other people has been here about 3 years, and the other 4 people are basically new, that have been here for a year or less. So the overtime line request is $70,000, and that is up slightly from this year. That's based on what we've done historically. Again, this is typically used for when we have water main breaks, which can happen anytime, often happen on weekends, holidays, and when overtime rates are at a premium. The longevity number is down, and that's because there's a bunch of new employees. Again, the part-time help is flat. We try to get 2 seasonal employees in the summertime to help with weed whacking around fire hydrants and painting them. This past summer, we only had 1 person, and that's just because we were busy trying to fill the spots for the full-timers and get them trained. So having another summer seasonal help person just wasn't feasible with all the new training that was going on for the full-time staff. The office equipment is flat, and the departmental equipment is down. The request is for $25,000 for next year. This year was $40,000. We purchased a number of items that we need that will last several years, so that number is going down for next year. The vehicle line is up this year, and it's just because of a need to replace vehicles we'd be using for this line, to get 2 Mason dumps, sport utility vehicle, and a pickup truck. Continuing on to the next page, page 179. Here in the expenses, you'll see the tap materials are increased, and that's corresponds with the revenue increase for the sale of taps. We've also increased the request for mains and service line materials to $40,000. That was $30,000 this year. And that's an effort to build up our inventory, and that's for parts for water main breaks. So we have water pipes in the system that range from 2 inches up to 20 inches in diameter. And there's various repair couplings that we have. Sometimes we are able to put on what's called a wraparound repair sleeve if it's only a circular break on the pipe. Other times we have to cut out a piece of pipe and put in a new section, and there's different repair clamps for that. So we're trying to make sure that we have a healthy inventory of parts for these repairs, because it has been taking longer to get these items. Our hydrant materials, we've also increased the request for that. That's now at $50,000. That's primarily for replacing hydrants and also for some repair parts. So we have out in the system about 1,340 fire hydrants. And this amount of funding would allow us to replace 20 hydrants per year. If you take that into consideration, for all the hydrants that are out there, that means we'd be replacing hydrants every 67 years. They last a long time, but that's definitely a high number. So we have increased that to try to replace an additional number of hydrants each year, so that we have a improved replacement cycle for those. The rest of the items on here are all flat: meter materials, sewer materials, leak site, instruments, and repair lines.
Bart, does your crew do the hydrant inspections?
We do, yes.
And how long does it, like, how frequently do those happen, given the number of hydrants?
So we do them annually, and that's in our contracts with the fire districts. We have a contract with the Chappaqua Newcastle Fire District, and also with Middlewood. And so we commit to clearing vegetation around them, painting them, inspecting them. We flow the hydrants every year. That's what we're in the process of doing now. And make sure there's no water sitting in the bottom of the hydrants so they don't freeze up. But that's done annually.
And then that informs the replacement cycle?
Yes, correct. Yeah, so we do have sometimes, occasionally they'll get hit by cars, but usually it's based on repair work that are needed. So oftentimes, as you could assume, when you have 1,350 hydrants, when they're doing those inspections now, we have come across a couple that are on the list to replace and also to do repairs on. Doing that annually, we find is helpful. It's what the fire departments request, and it's helpful for the water system to make sure that we're having a state of readiness for all of the fire hydrants. So that kind of wraps up the 8310 portion of the water district budget, which is for distribution. And then next we would get into the 8330, which is the water treatment plant. Are there any questions on 8310 before we move into the next part of this?
Go ahead, Bart.
All right, thank you. So here again, you'll see a lot of the numbers are flat. Some of the numbers for the variable cost are down slightly for the power. That's based on an estimate provided to us by the Suez plant staff. One of the big question marks with this portion is whether we will be on the Catskill Aqueduct or on the new Croton Aqueduct. Being on the new Croton Aqueduct increases costs substantially because we're pumping water from 370 feet under the ground to the Middlewood treatment plant, as opposed to taking it from the Catskill Aqueduct, which is right behind the plant and at grade with the plant. So the pumping costs are substantial. And another thing that we've run into this year are the water treatment chemical costs, which are even higher than they were 2 years ago. So, last year we were fortunate and we only had to go on the new Croton for about a week, as opposed to the original plan DEP had, which was for another long shutdown like we had in 2019 to 20. That was about 10 to 12 weeks we were on the new Croton. But this time the amount of chemicals is it's about 4 times as much of the PACL. That's the pumps that you approved replacing last night, and that's the main chemical used to form the flock. It's a coagulant chemical that helps bring the particles together to separate them out through the DAF process, where they're floated off the surface of the water in the treatment plant. So the latest word is that we're not going to have to go on new Croton Aqueduct for several years after this shutdown, but I don't have that in writing. So we're hopeful that happens, but that's a big variable in the budget for the filter plant. The other items you'll see some changes on. It goes at page 184, ozone system maintenance. You'll see a increase there from $35,000 to $95,000. There's 3 ozone generators at the plant. They've been in service for a while now, and they need a major maintenance cycle on each of those, which is $60,000 each. So we're planning to do one each for the next 3 years.
So that's per one.
That's per one, yes.
So this is an expense we should expect for the next 2 years in addition, for a total of 3 years.
Correct, yes.
And how long does that last for before they have to have this type of maintenance again?
It should be another 10 years. It's like a 10-year major maintenance cycle for the ozone generators. There's significant costs with the ozone, but that is actually what's getting us through this shutdown of the Catskill and having the new Croton water be palatable. Ozone is the best option out there for removing the taste and odor compounds from the water. So I mean, we actually finally got one phone call, and somebody said, "Did you do something with the water? It tastes different." They didn't complain, but they noticed, and there is a different taste. It's a different source, but we have not gotten any other phone calls about the water.
I haven't heard anything either. Can you I'm sorry, you may have said this already. I apologize. What other municipalities use our water? It's Pleasantville and anyone else?
Pleasantville.
Just
So
Pleasantville.
Pleasantville is a part owner of the plant. And then we also provide some water to some small water districts. So there's IBM, which is the TJ Watson facility, research facility, and the Kitchewan Water District, which is a small section of Yorktown. Yorktown's a big town, and they have their own water system, but this is remote from that. And there are also 3 small districts in Mount Pleasant that we supply: Mill River, Apple Hill, and Old Farm. And occasionally we supply water to a small district in Bedford, Cedar Downs, which is adjacent to Stanwood.
So nothing goes to Mount Kisco?
Nothing goes to Mount Kisco. So the other thing you'll see further down in the special project, you'll see it's $90,000 requested there. And that's to replace the PLCs, the programmable logic controllers in the Middlewood pump station. The Middlewood pump station was built in 1990, and the filter plant was finished in 1993. So this is SCADA control equipment that was installed when the pump station was built in 1990. That is out of date, and parts are no longer available, unless they're located through secondary markets somehow to just keep that stuff going. So this item is to replace the equipment for the pump station. And in the subsequent years, the request will be there for the filter plant as well for this type of improvement for the PLCs. That wraps up the 8330 portion of the water budget. Are there any questions on that?
Seeing no hands, Bart, move on.
No,
Oh, what? Lisa jumped in. My apologies.
no, I said no, no.
Oh.
Thank you.
So next, we do have two small water districts of our own that we could just go through briefly. They're pretty straightforward, one page each. There's the Two Castles Water District and the High Ridge Water District.
Two Castles and 240. I have that up, Bart.
Okay. So this is just a small district out by the Whippoorwill Country Club. That's where we supply some water to some residents out there. And everything here is pretty much the same from year to year. If there aren't any questions on that, we could just move to the High Ridge Water District.
So the High Ridge Water District is the newest district. We added about 4 or 5 years ago, Bart?
Yeah, I think it's probably been like 7 years now.
Has it been that long?
Yeah,
Probably.
closer to 10, yeah.
Yeah, okay, 10 even. It's been a while.
Do you want to explain what we did with the High Ridge District?
So the High Ridge District, High Ridge Road is off of Croton Avenue. And the beginning of the road is in the village of Mount Kisco, and then shortly thereafter it turns to the town of Newcastle. So these residents were being served by Mount Kisco. They were paying exorbitant rates for Mount Kisco water, which is generally considered to be lower quality than the Newcastle water. And Jerry Michelle, former commissioner, worked hard with the neighbors there to get them. They created the High Ridge Water District to install a new water main there so that they would get water from the Newcastle system. So basically the district was created and the funds were used to install a new water main there. Those residents are now getting town of Newcastle water, and they're paying Newcastle rates. So
Bart, wasn't there also an issue with not just water quality, but pressure at the top of the hill?
that
hydrant.
sounds familiar. Yeah, I wasn't intimately involved with it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think there was.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, there was significant problems with water at the top of that hill there, water pressure.
So they have been solved. The residents are very happy out there now.
Yeah.
And this is a debt service for the bonds, Rob.
Yes. And that's why we lowered the property taxes there by about 4,800 this year. When we ultimately closed out that capital project, we realized it came in below budget. So we ended up with a little bit of fund balance, which we're using to offset the property taxes there over the next few years. it's not a big decrease, but over, I think it's what, 17 or 18 properties or something there, so.
If we could pull up the Public Works Administration there.
109.
So there is a new request in the expense line here, and that's to add a part-time person to the office here at DPW. We do get a high volume of phone calls and email requests into the various email sites. We also have a lot of work to do keeping up with our cross connection control program, and that's administers the backflow devices, of which there's over 600 in town. So those devices need to be tested annually by those that have them. They need to submit records to us. So there's a lot of work in maintaining that. There's also a lot of records management here that we're trying to improve upon to be more organized. There's a big backlog of files and plans and whatnot that we have here that need to be scanned and filed. So the person in this position would be doing all of that work.
Is this something you expect in perpetuity, or at least the foreseeable future, or as sort of a 1 or 2 year shot?
I would expect it for the foreseeable future.
Jeremy, I'll point out, and this has been years ago, but that department used to be staffed with 3 full-time office staff, and kind of through attrition and retirements, we never restaffed it fully in the interest of reducing costs. And I think they're kind of paying the price administratively there as far as record keeping and that type of stuff. So I think Bart has indicated that this employee will kind of help them get back to where they need to be.
I don't doubt it. Just curious in terms of planning going forward, and it's always asked, and the answer is always the same. But when you're part time, it's
Yeah.
not a pension based employment.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, Bart, if I'm not mistaken, there are some administrative needs that that this part-timer would address, that the county is sort of turning up the pressure on us on, as far as our accountability with the RPCs and the reporting. Maybe you could just fill the board in with that.
Right, yes, that's the cross connection control and the backflow devices. So anybody who has a fire sprinkler system, irrigation system, or swimming pool, they're supposed to have a backflow device that would prevent any contamination of the public water supply. So it just as an example, it's to prevent back siphonage or back pressure. So if we had a water main break and somebody had like a hose from their house out into their pool, we could draw water back into the public water system, and that could possibly contaminate the system. So that's why those devices are required to be installed when there's fire sprinklers and whatnot. And as part of that, there's a submittal process, which is a lot of time and paperwork for our staff to review the plans, because usually there's several iterations until they're complete and we're able to sign off on them, and then they have to be sent to the county. The county then sends back paperwork. We have to follow up with the installation to make sure that it's done correctly. There's forms that need to be submitted at that time. Then they're entered into our system, and they need to test these devices annually. And we're required to keep all of that information. So there's over 600 devices throughout town. So it's a substantial amount of work.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions on the Public Works Administration?
Move forward. Thank you.
Rob, if we could get into the town hall maintenance for it.
Yep. Should be up there, Bart.
These lines, thank you, Rob. These lines are used for maintenance at the town hall building. That's primarily carried out by our building maintenance department and contractors that are working for the town. So we have a contractor for the HVAC and for cleaning. You'll also see, I believe, Rob, the special projects line here. That's the COVID supplies line?
Yeah, that's where we've charged the COVID supplies over the last few years in order to keep them kind of centralized in order that we get any FEMA reimbursement. That just makes it easier for Mike to submit when they're coming out of one budget line. So for lack of a better line, that's the one we chose. And a lot of times in that special projects line, it'll be kind of one-off expenses that we plan to do that aren't necessarily recurring year over year.
And the one increase you will see here is in the building maintenance line, about halfway through the page. We increased the request to $30,000 from $26,000. This is for maintenance inside of the building. So there's substantial wear and tear that's going on since the last major renovation of town hall, and there's upgrades that are needed. One of the things we're trying to do, if you look back as well, also in 2019, 2020, we didn't spend the money that was there. So I'm working with the building maintenance foreman now to make sure we're spending all of the money this year. We're trying to get cost proposals to replace carpeting downstairs in the recreation area. There's a hallway back there and part of the police offices. So we want to make sure we're spending this money because we're asking for more. We know there's work that needs to be done. The carpets upstairs were replaced a few years back, so there's flooring, there's wallpaper, that we know is peeling in certain spots. So this is to try to improve the maintenance and the look of town hall. There aren't any questions on that. If we could go to the A1621, which is similar budget only for the DPW building. So the line items here are very similar year to year. And again, we're trying to make sure that we're spending all the money in the building maintenance line. Definitely work needed here. This year, we're focusing on garage doors. We had one at recycling that had to be replaced fully. That was recently completed. There's several down here for the highway garage door bays that will be completed soon. Those are repairs. They're replacing bottom sections, replacing weather stripping, just general upkeep on those. And again, we saw supply issues with that. I think it was in the springtime when we actually put in the requisition and purchase order for the garage door at recycling. It was finally done, so it took at least 6 months to get that done after that was ordered. I'm gonna pull up the sewer districts next, Rob.
Sure. Bart, let me just make a comment if you don't mind to
Yes,
start off
please.
with the sewer district. So sewer district number one, in sewer district, funds S1 and S5, which is, sewer district number one in the King Greeley Sewer District, bore the brunt of the, costs for the infrastructure project that were related to the sewers. We did end up getting a grant for about 450,000 or so, I think, for the sewer districts. So what you see in sewer district one, you also see it in sewer district five. If you see a reduction in the property taxes of about $35,000 there, that's where we're applying the fund balance. When we got the grant, it went right into fund balance, and we're applying that fund balance over a period, I think, of 5 or 6 years. I'm drawing that down to kind of offset the property taxes. We had an idea that was coming. We did receive the grant, and now going forward, we'll be able to reduce the taxes a little bit. Like I said, for a period of over 4 to 5 years.
Thank you, Rob. So one thing that I would just like to point out is on that's sewer district 6. That's the Pines Bridge Sewer District. You will see there that there was a decline in revenue and expenses, and that's related to us funding a project this year that has been on the books for several years now. There were communications upgrades that were needed from the Hudson Hills sewer lift station. That reports back to the control room at the Middlewood water treatment plant, so they can monitor what's going on there. So they had to replace the communications line. Originally, it was a Verizon copper line that went from Pines Bridge Road out to the lift station, which is in the middle of the golf course. And they had to have that replaced with a fiber line because the copper lines aren't being supported anymore. Verizon did complete the replacement of that cable, so there's a fiber cable now, and this is for communications devices that are needed at the lift station to get that fully functioning again, so that they are able to see everything that's going on there from the control room at the water treatment plant. That project was approved. There was a purchase order issued to NIC. That's the company that we use for that type of work, and they are in the process of working on that now. So we hope to have that finished by the end of this year, but that project has been fully funded this year, so that's why that is going back down. Wraps up the sewer districts. If we could touch briefly on the commercial refuse district 1 and 2.
Just looking for it, Bart. I'll be there in a second. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, that's up, Bart.
So commercial district 1, that's the Allen Place garbage district, and that serves all of the commercial businesses on Lower King and part of South Greeley. And so we established this district a number of years ago, and we installed equipment there to centralize the garbage and recycling disposal. And in years past, there were dumpsters for every business, and it used to be called the dumpster farm, I think. So in order to improve the appearance and have everything centralized, this district was created. We go out to bid for this. The contract is up the end of June that we currently have, so we will be going out to bid for that in the springtime. We actually do, that's a joint bid that we do with the schools. So we bid for commercial refuse district 1 and 2, and also for collection from the town buildings. So the town hall, the community center, the art center, and all of the town buildings, and we do that bid jointly with the schools while they're seeking services for all of the school buildings. So we do anticipate that there will be an increase coming with that bid, hopefully. Not as substantial as for the residential district. So on Commercial Refuse District 2, that's the one behind Bank of America in that parking lot. And there's 2 facilities there that are fenced in, centralized collection points. And those wooden corrals are showing their age, wear and tear. And so next year, we're planning to rebuild those. There's funds in here to do that work. That about covers all of the districts that we're involved in. Did I miss any, Ron?
I don't think so, Bart. That's a pretty exhaustive list, but yeah, I think you're done.
Anyone have any further questions for Bart?
No, thank you, Bart, for the review and the explanations.
Oh, you're welcome, very welcome. And we're always here for questions on these line items and what we do. There's a lot of stuff, so we're always willing to give explanations.
Thanks, Bart.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
All right.
Bart.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Bart.
Bye now.
All right. We're actually a smidgen early for Ike. We can either stretch our legs or I'll take and text him and tell him to come on in.
Can we take 2 minutes?
Absolutely. I'll let him know though we're ready for him.
I'm only going to approve a minute 49, but get going, Rob.
Okay.
I'll run.
I'm gonna pitch
Not in
2:58.
town hall. Do not run. You walk in town hall. All right, two minutes or so. See you guys back.
Okay.
Hi, Ike. They're just taking a quick break.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Carrie.
Did you get that video link?
I
Did I-
did, thank you.
Okay, good.
So is there something that I need to do, like, after the fact in order?
I mean,
I
if
couldn't
you,
see any of the recordings that we've done for any of the meetings.
so from now on, just send me an email when you have one and I'll make sure to download it and keep it as an archive.
Okay,
Okay? I mean, I'll keep it up for a month, but you know, if you have to go back and refer to it, then, you know, we need it longer than that.
Got it. Yeah.
It's just the storage space is limited, so eventually we won't be able to record to Zoom. We'll run out of space.
Now, is there a way to, is there like a transcript version that we could print off
Yes.
or no? There is?
Yeah, I just have to run it through a system, but we do have that.
Okay, all right.
So
cool.
I'll do it for that meeting, and then we can do it moving forward also.
Yeah, just so, you know, because we
It
like,
helps for minutes.
yeah, we like to keep the hard copies here on file at the office as well.
Okay,
So that would certainly help. Thanks, Carrie.
no problem.
Hey, Ike, how we doing this morning?
Good, thanks. How are you? Sorry, just taking a drink.
All right.
I've got Christina's here too.
Hello.
So
Oh,
she's
great.
Hi, guys.
so bear with us. We're certainly not the tech department here. We'll,
I think Rob's got,
bring out
unless
the one
you're,
camera here.
yeah, yeah, you may want to sit a little closer together, but that's okay. I thought you were talking about like sharing your screen or something like that. You were just talking about both getting in the picture. You ought to be able to handle that.
Yeah. She doesn't want to sit that close to me yet this morning.
Okay. The truth comes out. I got it.
Yeah.
You can either, if you have anything you want to share with the board, any visuals, you can do so. You can share your screen. If not, I've been sharing the particular pages of the budget. I can do that for you, whatever you like.
That would be great. I don't have anything that I need to share on the screen.
Okay.
Over some highlights ahead of time before we dive into the budget, whenever everybody's ready. Just, some stuff that we did throughout the year, and then we can go through the budget. But yeah, I don't have anything to share on the screen.
Okay.
Ready to rock and roll again?
Yep. All right.
Welcome, Mr. Kuzio. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, Ike.
Morning.
This reminds you of the time where someone said, talking about Ike Kuzio, who's sitting right next to her and didn't know who Ike Kuzio was. Lisa, I think that was before.
I remember that was Hala, right?
That was Hala.
It's Hala. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody
Turned
should
to Ike
mention
and
this.
said, you should really meet the new guy we just hired.
He's only
Yeah.
6 foot a lot.
It was the.
He's really
someone should-
tall.
Yeah, someone should mention this to the superintendent of recreation. It's like sitting there.
Yeah, I think that was that what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for those of you that don't know me, I am the superintendent of Parks and Recreation.
And you're 6'4".
Christine's in here
I'm
somewhere.
the assistant. Hi, Christine.
Hi, Christine, how are you?
Who is not 6'4", just to
No.
clarify.
About a foot shorter.
All right. Whenever you guys are ready, I can get started or,
Yeah, Ike, let me just preface this first one real quick. This is the Parks and Recreation budget, and this first slide here is the rec admin piece. You'll see a huge jump in salaries. That's not actually really what we did is just reclass. So in the past, and you'll see Ike has got several different department codes as he goes through seniors and youth athletics and various departments. In years past, salaries for individuals were allocated to each of those activities. And we just kind of centralize everything in the rec admin because they are all rec administration staff members. So when you're talking Jamie, Doug, Brittany, Ike, and Christine, they're all charged to this line instead of spread out. So you'll see an increase here, and then you'll see decreases throughout the other budget lines. So I just wanted to point that out because it looks shocking that we increased salaries 56%, but we didn't do that.
So Rob, what was the net change?
I don't have that off the top of my head. Whatever it is, it's contractual. I think Jamie is the only one that has a step increase. Am I correct, Ike? I think that, well, Doug was at the top step and he's leaving us, but I still have salary allocated for his position. Brittany is at the top step, so she did not have any salary increase. So I think it was just for Jamie.
And Christine Gray.
Yeah, I think there was a,
Right.
because Christine received an increase in 2021, so there would have been an increase over that prior year, so.
Okay. Thanks, Rob, for clearing that up for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Rob, will the longevity also go down? I'm sorry to interrupt, Ike.
No, it's all right.
The
Because-
longevity, I think, actually went up because I thought Brittany, somebody became eligible.
Brittany.
Must have
Yeah,
been Brittany.
Brittany's
Brittany.
eligible.
Sorry. Yes. Got it.
You're talking relative pennies compared to the overall budget.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yep. All right, so we'll get started. And, thank you everybody for having me this morning. I'm just going to go over a few quick things from 2021, just some accomplishments for the department, both recreation and parks related. And then we'll dive into the fun stuff of all the numbers. It was nice to get back to a normal year this year than what we had to deal with in 2020. So we were able to open up some more of our programs. We increased camp registration a little bit this year, hoping in 2022 we'll be able to get back to full capacity. And we'll show that in the budget later on. That's kind of what we're planning for. But we sold out both Tots and Camp Adventure this year. We actually had a pretty substantial waiting list as well. So people want camp back to full capacity. So hopefully we'll be able to do that in 2022. A lot of
Yeah.
Quick question. Were people asking about the on-the-go camp? I know we couldn't do that for COVID reasons, but is that something we think is going to come back next year?
Fingers crossed, yes. And yes, we have had, questions regarding on-the-go camp. People would like to see it come back. So hopefully we can make that work next summer. We're planning on it. We've included it in the budget and hopefully we can get that back.
Okay, great, thanks.
So that's the plan. A few of our other programs increased this year. Our flag football program has gone up by 34%. We have almost 270 kids in the program this year, which is a testament to the work that Doug has done over the last 3 years with that program, and just the core staff that he's been able to bring in for that, and obviously all the volunteer coaches that we get every year certainly help with that program as well. Our rentals have gone up almost 600% this year. It's a testament to the staff and advertising and handling the influx in calls and requests for the times and doing all that juggling. So that's been nice to see. We did almost 220 rides so far for seniors this year. Various rides, so doctor's appointments, shopping, you name it. I think we've pretty much taken them there. From buying crickets for pets to getting a box of wine.
All in the same
All on
trip.
the same trip. So I think the seniors have been very appreciative of that.
How many seniors are served by that service? Generally, how many households?
We do have our regulars, but I would say there's at least 20 individuals amongst that number.
Yeah.
It could vary.
Great, thank you.
Yes. We were one of the first municipalities to open up our doors to senior events this year. Actually, indoor senior events, which was huge, and we've seen it because we're averaging at least 40 to 50 seniors at each of our programs that we've offered for them. So they were excited to be back in the building. We were excited to have them back. A lot of hard work went into that with Bess and our social worker Bess, Maria, the front desk, and obviously Christine. So we're excited to have them back in the building. We had a few new special events this year. We had the egg hunt, which was a huge hit in the spring. Thank you to Lauren Levin for all the work with Supper on Center. I think that was a huge hit. We'll have to revitalize that for 2022. We had an around the world basketball tournament that was a partnership with the Newcastle Youth, United for Youth, which was a big hit for that. And right now we're back into the chat pack a little bit with the children's series. Hopefully those numbers will pick up, but we'll see how that goes for the rest of the. I think we have 5 more left, right? Or 4? 4 more left. So we'll see how that goes. The parks guys were very busy this year. I think one of the bigger projects, as Jill is well aware, was the refurbished 9/11 memorial that Johnson spent a good chunk of the summer up there, really breaking that down and tearing it down and rebuilding it and getting it to where it needs to be for now. It was a heck of a project and a lot of work, and really proud of the time that the guys put in up there.
It's a really fantastic facelift, really amazing work.
Thank you.
Clearly a lot of work.
The guys did a great job up there. So it's always great to have a good team under you, and guys that care. So, I mean, there's a grocery list of stuff that they've done this year, from some of the work, the refurbishing work that they did inside the community center, the new pathway at the Holocaust Memorial, the landscaping out here in front of Town Hall. They resurfaced the entire outfield at Middlewood Park. And then the infield will get done this fall. Thank you to Newcastle Baseball. They basically renovated a good majority of the inside of the garage. It's a big difference now than what it was a year ago. And all the trail work, I mean, the buildings, the new barbecue pits they put up at Smith Park last year, and they've been quite busy. And obviously the help bringing Gene Craighead George Park to life, working with that volunteer group over there, which I know Laura, you've been a big part of. It'll be quite the transformation with that park over the next couple of years, I think. So.
Yeah, the support of your team on that is greatly appreciated, and certainly all of the cleanup work for the Vine Squad and their various projects around town, including that one, given that sometimes not a whole lot of notice for when they're going to go out and work and leave a lot of material around that needs to be recovered by your team. So they're very grateful for that. It's been instrumental in getting that program, launched and running this year.
Yeah, the Vine Squad's been huge. They've done a lot of work. That's for sure.
Really busy. And, certainly the other thing I want to mention is what a fantastic job your folks have done maintaining the watering of the potted flowers over the summer throughout the town. It's so essential to having that look the way that it needs to look. It may not seem like a big thing, but I think it has a huge impact.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, it's amazing how long that takes during the day. So there's a lot of plants out there.
No, I know it's a big job, but there's a lot of payback for the effort, I think.
It really does add a lot to the town. It does really look it out there. And that's and we work with a lot of clubs. I mean, the Garden Club, the Beautification Board, conservation. I mean, there's a lot of hands that go into how good this town looks. So, it's nice having all those partnerships and being able to work with everybody like that. So, and then just a couple of the projects that got done this year, the lighting at Middlewood baseball field. We have the security cameras up at Amsterdam Park, the pickleball court here at Town Hall. Finally, those lines got down, and we've had some people using out there. Hopefully that'll increase going into next year.
Hey, Ike, may I ask, with the security cameras at Amsterdam, has that prevented any of the vandalism, and has that been a good thing?
Actually, yes. Right out of early in the summer, we had an incident up there where it was high school age kids got for a nice little party up there and left quite the mess. But we were able to, working with the PD, They were able to identify who was up there and nip that in the bud pretty quick, and we didn't have any other issues the rest of the summer. So I think once
Right.
people realized that there was eyes on the park, they tend to be a little more cautious up there and behave.
Awesome.
So yes, that was a huge help, and it had an impact right away.
So if I can just interject, so at Amsterdam, we are planning on renovating Amsterdam 1 with one of our SAM grants for next year. And we will also be installing security cameras around the train station, upgraded security cameras around the train station. And then we'll be looking to do the playground at Amsterdam. No, I'm sorry, not at Amsterdam, at Middlewood Park. It was one of the things that we had originally hoped to get done this year, but money only allowed us for so much. So we'll be able to, Ike's crew will be able to take and do some additional, renovations to facilities that have been, long promised and hopefully soon completed. So we'll be looking to see those next year.
Just
And
a
also-
little love.
Yep.
Ike, how's the rec master plan coming?
So that was actually the last thing on my list. But I can address that now. We've ramped it up a little bit over the last probably 2 months. Kellen and Sabrina have been a huge asset throughout this process. Right now, it looks like our target end date to have the full thing completed is, I think, the second week in January. We'll call it mid-January. It's a finalized product for everybody to review and sign off on, and then go from there and start working off of for the next 5+ years.
That's great.
And then the only other projects we had this year were the Art Center. The beautification of the Art Center continues. We installed new windows. We'll have hopefully in the next week or so, we'll have a new walkway, pathway out in front there at the Art Center. And then next year, it's in the budget. I think, I don't know if it's still under capital projects, Rob, I apologize. I don't remember where we put it, but we'll plan on painting the building in the spring of 2022. And then one other thing, we brought in a new rec supervisor this year, Jamie Bucci from the town of Cortland. She's had a big impact so far. She actually ran the Ragamuffin. I think it was her first special event that she was in charge of. So she ran the Ragamuffin this past weekend, and that was a big success. We had a great turnout. Weather always helps. But yeah, so we brought Jamie in. Now we're losing Doug. We'll have to we'll go through the process again. But happy for Doug. He's moving up. He gets to run his own department now. It's all the joys of being the head honcho. So we're happy for him. But that was my long-winded list of stuff from the year. I apologize for taking so long, but felt it was important to touch
Ike,
on.
I have an important question.
Yeah, dive in.
During my reign as a totalitarian, evidently, of the town of Newcastle, my feudal manor, I want to know where my slide the city budget line is.
So, well, we can.
And the requisite insurance to go along with it.
We can get the.
Come
I
on.
said, and the requisite insurance to go along with
Yeah,
it.
exactly. You would love it. Come on. So anyway, if you could point that out, I appreciate it. If not now, in the future.
It's a little late in the season for it, Jeremy.
RJ would have no problem giving that the green light.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Ike. I appreciate it. Anyone have any additional questions? Absolutely not. Thank you so much. Thank you both.
Rob, how do you just want to go? How have you been doing this so far? Is it a line by line, or we kind of just?
Well, no, line by line is probably not necessary when you're looking at office supplies that don't change, or printing and publishing. But what you should do is highlight anything that you do have significant changes, or anything that you wanted to highlight. We talked about a few things in particular during the departmental budget meetings, and maybe you want to highlight some of those things.
Okay.
You can You can go through. I mean, it doesn't look like rec admin has a whole heck of a lot of changes. Maybe we
No, the
can-
only real significant thing there is in the printing and publishing. I think that's where we put the money, Rob, is I would like to replace all of the signs, the policy, at each of the parks, we have those kind of the park rule signs. They're looking quite dated and weathered and need to be replaced. So that'd be one thing that we're gonna do in 2022 is replace all of those. I think that's the printing and publishing line out of rec admin.
Yeah. Yep, it was up from 1,000 to I think 3,500.
2,500, yeah.
2,500, yeah. All right, probably can jump over to the Parks Department.
Yep. With the Parks Department, the big change is the equipment line. We're in all of this. Rob, I don't know if the town board saw the breakdown of the spreadsheet with all the list of the equipment, which adds up to this 36 or 35 sticks number.
No,
No,
but
they
you could
haven't.
certainly share that with them.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, all of the equipment that we're looking to purchase is to facilitate our landscaping needs, and will allow us to run a split crew during the height of the season, just to make it more efficient and kind of get these properties done. Because right now we're on a 3-week cycle to get to all of the properties. Obviously, the fields get hit every week. The high traffic areas, town hall, the stuff that really everybody sees on a daily basis, that gets hit every week. But all the outlying properties that we have to maintain and take care of are really on a 3-week cycle, and we'd like to trim that down. No pun intended. Sorry. But and some of this is replacement equipment, but most of this is to allow us to split crews during the height of the season and really make it more efficient to maintain all of the town properties, both in chapter.
It's not a personnel issue, it's solely an equipment issue?
Well, personnel, it'll help with, because we've knocked down wood. We've had some luck with seasonals this year. And if we can go forward that, like, obviously, listen, I've been short one full-time guy for the last 2 years since Dennis, since we lost Dennis. It would obviously be a huge help to bring another full-time guy on. But since that's doesn't seem to be the case, at least for next year, we'll supplement it with seasonals, and the additional equipment will help with that.
And as you bring up the additional equipment, as we've transitioned or starting to transition to more environmental friendly equipment, I ask that you keep an eye out on slowly making that change as you see fit for equipment that can be run to the magnitude that you need it to be run.
We'll certainly keep an eye on that. We did in this line for additional equipment next year is multiple battery operated backpack blowers, to use during the hiatus from I think it runs from April to September, something like that, in September. So we are adding multiple backpack blowers. We'll keep an eye out for mowers. I mean, right now it's tough because the battery operated ones just don't last as long. We can't get a full day out of the mowers that we need that are battery operated, and they don't have. I think the largest battery mower right now is 60-inch, and that would be okay for some of the properties, but not all. And you can usually right now I think the average is about 2 hours of runtime, 2.5.
We can't get you a Tesla and put
Put some wings on there.
Yeah, now we're talking.
Hey, listen, I'm sure somebody's smart enough to figure that out.
Do we have battery weed whips?
A what?
Do we have electric weed whips?
We don't. We went to the 4-stroke weed whackers because they're more efficient and less CO2 going into the atmosphere. The problem we go through those, they don't last long. They burn out from the heavy use, because they're just not, even the commercial ones really aren't built for the constant use that we're getting out of them. I think we went through 4 of them last year. They're about $400 a pop. So, so we're trying, but we will certainly keep an eye on that, Jeremy. As the equipment becomes a little better, we'll certainly take a look. So that was the big addition. That's like the big ask with the Parks Department right now, is that. And then I wanted to put money back in for training for park staff. Rutgers offers a lot of great landscaping and outdoor chainsaw classes, and I think it would just benefit the staff in the long run if we can get them into those. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Thank you.
Yep.
Buddy? No?
I'll jump you to the community center here.
Yeah, nothing too significant there. Other we have an increase in the receptionist line, and that's really just to cover the jump to $15 an hour for our staff over there. We've been paying them less than that, so just to kind of get everybody up to $15 an hour as a base minimum. So that extra money in there will help cover those expenses.
This is a better question suited for Rob than you like. Rob, when we replaced the roof, and I know we're seeking grant monies, if I'm not mistaken, to help fix the senior center, among other things. Any additional dollars that we need to match, does that come out of their budget or does that come out of the general fund?
So Parks and Recreation budget is within the general fund. So I guess the answer to your question is yes. Both. It would
Not
come out of the-
directly. It's because it's coming from the same place. It's
Yeah. So the general fund encompasses a lot, and all the recreation expenses and the revenues are all kind of lumped in. So as I kind of went through the revenue lines last night, there's 10 or so different revenue lines associated with recreation. They're not specifically allocated just to recreation. That money goes into the general fund, and conversely, anything that they spend flows out of the general fund as well.
Gotcha. And we were a couple of years ago. When did we change over the relationship with the school district so that we weren't paying, what was it, $80-something thousand to use their fields?
It was $85,000. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that-
2019, I think, was the first year without it.
And have you been able to handle that all right? Has it changed anything?
It's made life easier on our end. And we can have a conversation. I do get feedback from the youth groups and how it was going with the school. I think maybe with a new AD and things like that there at the department. But
We can discuss that. I'm not going to discuss it here, but it's ultimately it's easier for you overall, and it's saving us dollars.
yes.
Okay.
And then one of the things that we wanted to go over today, and Rob, I'm not sure when maybe now might be the time, is just talk about the per participant fee for youth groups. Is that something we want to go over now, or wasn't sure when we wanted to insert
Yeah,
this?
I mean, I guess you can talk about it now. It could be when we get through to youth recreation. Whenever you want to bring that up, that's fine.
Well, why don't we do it now? I mean, we're talking fields anyway.
Yep.
One of the things that, in discussion with Jill and Rob and the rec commission as well, was to bring back the per participant fee that we used to charge when, Jeremy, as you mentioned, when we were working with the school district, and that per participant fee that the youth groups would pay the town would help. Certainly wouldn't cover. I think it covered about a third of the overall expense. But we would use it to offset what we had to pay the school district to use their fields, that $85,000 or $86,000. This per participant fee would typically bring in, I don't know, around 25 grand, I think, throughout the year from all the youth groups. We haven't done that in the last couple of years, but our fields are still getting overused on a daily basis. And the discussion is going, should we reinstate that to the groups that use town fields? And it's a $15 per participant fee that they would pay twice a year, basically for the spring season and the fall season. This we would put towards the maintenance of our own fields. We are looking to contract with a company, it's called Nature's Pro Soil, Nature's Bio, and implement a new maintenance program for our fields. It's the same company the school district uses. Obviously, school district fields don't see as much use as ours do on a daily basis, but this maintenance system will certainly benefit us in the strength and the overall all I can think of is lastability. I know that's not a word, but basically we'll get better life out of it.
Longevity. I mean, listen.
Longevity, thank you.
We look
Yeah.
at Amsterdam Park. We're investing in upgrading
Yep.
that. We just invested with grants from Senator Harcum. I think for both, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
SAM grants to fix Middlewood. So this is unfortunate reality, which is great that it's being used, but that means it needs to be kept up.
Right, and we've had a lot of support from Newcastle baseball over the last 3 years. I mean, they've invested over $60,000 in our fields between Gedney, 3 fields at Gedney, and now Middlewood. They're going to take care of the infield renovation there. But so I feel bad, kind of, with having to pay that per participant fee. But obviously, if we're doing it for one, we have to do it for everybody. And right now, it would directly affect Newcastle baseball, Chappaqua use soccer, and then ASO in the fall. They use our field in the fall, but that's what we'd be looking to do for 2022.
And have we explored, going in with the school district to get a better rate on a shared service for that company?
Well, what I can tell you is, to answer your question, no. But what I can tell you is that in conversations with the company, because they already make deliveries to the school district, it would save us on that cost. So, we would be saving there because it'd be one trip. They would do everything in one trip. So deliveries to the school, deliveries to us would happen around the same time.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy to talk to the school district if you want to see if there's any additional savings we can find there.
We got the name of the company and a very strong recommendation from the school district. That's how we got the company.
Right, but if there's a way we should at least explore a shared service with them so that maybe we can get a better rate.
Yeah, I think that's something. I think Lisa has a point.
Sure, we'll ask the company, but
Sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
Nope, that's it.
I don't know if this is the appropriate forum, but question about the fields at Gedney. I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. Do we have an electronic scoreboard there, or is that an old school? We have an electronic scoreboard there?
Yes. Yeah.
So I thought we did. So,
field
I've been around for Newcastle baseball with my little guy, and some communities have an electronic scoreboard that it works even for the little kids when they're there, and it's real exciting. Granted, I think every place we've been to has not been 3 fields. We're very fortunate. We have 3 great fields as opposed to just, 1 field. And they have someone who mans it. I would assume a volunteer. They put on music, even music during the, between innings, and these kids love it. They announce their names. They see the score. They're up there looking. I've never seen them work at Gedney Field. I don't know if they do. I just never seen it with my children. Is it working? And is there something we could explore, cost and ability to have something like that? So the board have an announcement, with speakers. I just don't know the cost or the viability of it for 3 fields.
That's actually a great question. So I can tell you there's no sound system there. There's no speakers with that scoreboard. But that is solely run by Newcastle baseball. They have not told me that it doesn't work. I can certainly follow up with Todd to see if it does. Like, they have the controls to plug in all of that for that scoreboard. We don't. So that's not maintained. Is it maintained by the town, or is it maintained by? Well, it was, I don't remember the history of it. So if anything's wrong with it, we would fix it. But I have not, we don't, like, I don't have the controls here for it, you know, Little League does all that because they're the ones that use it. And
Okay, well, so I'll
I
talk
could
to
certainly-
Todd. I'll talk to Todd offline and maybe we can discuss it again. It may not be the whole really reasonable to take time up here, but I think it's
Yeah.
something to look at in terms of what it would cost and the viability of making that happen because the kids go bonkers when they hear music and they announce their name and they see the Steelers. They love it. They love it. They think they're on, you know, the World Series.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, I talk to Todd almost every day, it feels like right now. So I'm sure I'll be speaking to him at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
I can
Please
ask.
do. Thank you.
Yep. So Joe, Rob, I don't know if there was anything else with that per participant fee, but that was basically it. It's a $15 per participant fee that we would charge the youth groups that use our fields. And it'd be twice a year, spring and fall.
I think it's a necessary evil. Unfortunately.
Yes, I would agree.
Uh,
All right,
Yeah,
Art?
I jumped over to the Art Center real quick.
Yep.
Not a big
No-
change
nothing.
there at all.
Yeah, nothing much here. A little extra money in the supplies. We're trying to increase. We have been increased programming over there. So just and with that comes the cost of doing business. So our supply line supplies for those programs will go up for 2022. Rob, question for you regarding we discussed the new kiln for the
Yep.
Art Center. Is that included in the $10,000 building maintenance line there? I meant to ask you that ahead of time and I apologize for not. I wasn't sure where we put that.
Yeah, I believe so. Mhm.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. It's just for my own knowledge. But yeah, so one of the kilns, probably about 30 years old now, I think at this point, finally, has given up and isn't worth fixing. So we've included a cost. It's about, the ballpark figures we've been getting is around 4,500 for a new kiln. So that's, we'll be looking to purchase one of those for 2022. That's it for the Art Center.
The next page I'll jump over to, and not really, we throw it under the Recreation and Parks umbrella, but it's the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center. And I'll just highlight that first line where we've included about $10,000 for part-time help. And this is where we're going to put, it's kind of a placeholder for our EPIC program. And Jill, maybe you want to talk a little bit more to that.
Sure. Thanks, Rob. So, this is a conversation that we've been having with EPIC for a long time, which was trying to create a program where we would hire members of our disabled community to be employed at the Chapac. We call it the clean team, ushers, greeters, and people who would work the concession stand. I have the application and the job descriptions. I'm just giving them a once over. They're going to be posted today. It is our hope that we are going to get this very trial program up and running for the event on November 6th, the drumming program. They would be ushers for that. The children's program that is running through rec, and then we have the U.S. Air Force Band that's either playing on the 13th or the 14th. I thought it was the 14th, but I looked at the calendar and it looks like it's the 13th. Whatever day it is that weekend as well. And basically just set it up, give us an opportunity to see how well we did, what our learning curve is on this. We'd also be looking to take and hire someone to oversee it. These people would be part-time availability through Ike's department, and it would be a minimum wage paying job. So we're very excited about it. It is on, I hate to put it in the same sentence, but it is a much smaller, less sophisticated program than something that's run over at the Prospector in Greenwich. But again, we're taking really tiny baby steps towards this and just seeing whether it would work or not. And so we're excited about it, though. But yeah, so we have funding for it for next year. that would be with our programs. And, we'd love to be able to expand it with whatever renters happen to come along in the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center. But for right now, we're just, trying it on a very trial basis to see how we do. Trying to control expectations. People are very excited about it, and I don't blame them, but.
Jill, I love this. And just so you know, I did speak with Westchester Broadway Theater about this, and they are more than willing, obviously we need to take baby steps to get this up to make sure we do it right, but they are more than willing to add on to this with us. So it's very exciting.
That'll be great. Good.
Okay, so I'll just point out the remaining lines, and those have not changed really over the last couple of years. It's about $66,000, and that's just for the various operating expenses of the Performing Arts Center. Various maintenance, repairs, utilities, contractual services. Ike, I'll jump to the next section, which is 7160, the special programs. And I first just want to point out before I let you get into the increase in the special event supply and what you have planned there. I want to point out the co-sponsored programs at 80,000 that's budgeted there. That's those are the programs that we run through rec where we have an 80-20 typically, right? Not always, but usually an 80-20 split with the outside vendor that's running the program. So you see an $80,000 expense here, and correspondingly, there's a $100,000 revenue line in the on the revenue side. So if either of those either increase or decrease, it's commensurate with the revenue line as well.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Rob. It's we shoot for an 80-20 split with those contractors with those vendors that we bring in to run programs.
Okay. Why don't you kick off special event supply? You've got a few things in there this year.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff is the same. Well, the two big ads are, so we include the children's series that we're running through Chapac right now. We've included that expense into the special event supply line, which is around $13,000 to run those programs at the Chapac, to bring that entertainment, and that's basically what it costs us. So we've included that in the special event supply line. The other big one is a potential 4th of July fireworks show. Now, this was something that Doug had wanted to pursue. He's leaving us now, so we'll see if we'll take a look at it. But I wanted to put it in as a placeholder, both as a discussion with the town board, is something that you guys would like to see in town, and if so, then we'll pursue the conversations to where we think the best location might be to make it happen. But that's around a $14,000 expense right now for a basic show, and then some of the entertainment beforehand and things like that. But we're looking at around 14 grand to do a fireworks type event in somewhere in town, if that's something that the town board would like to see going forward.
I've been asking for this since I started on the town board, so I'm really excited about it.
All right, so we got one.
I'm all in. Where do you think we can do this safely?
So that's the $14,000 question. We will talk with both the town fire inspector and the local fire departments to find a location that we think would be best. It might be initial thoughts, a rec field.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd be able to do the train station lot, only because I'm not sure how much Metro North would be on board with that. If we stay within the where the radius ends up. But again, that's the $14,000 question. We got to figure out where we can do it that not only can safely shoot off the fireworks, but can also handle the parking and the influx of people. So those are kind of the two wild cards. But before we pursue it, I wanted to make sure that everybody was on board with us taking a look at that and trying to make it happen for next year. Now, obviously, if it doesn't work out with the fireworks, our fallback plan can certainly be slide the city, and we can make that happen for Jeremy.
Oh, man, we can't set fireworks against Slide the City.
We just do it at the same
Let's do
time.
both.
We just do it at the
There
same
you
time.
go.
Slide
same
the
time.
City under the fireworks.
You
Yeah.
laugh. This is gonna be, you laugh, you all laugh. You shall
The
see.
night slide.
Ooh. And everyone has to be self-insured. It's fine.
Here's a waiver.
Sign it on the way down.
Right.
That could also be our fire plan for the fireworks, you know. Anyone who comes down the slide has to go down with a bucket of water and put out whatever happens to be, you know, ignited by the fireworks. It's good.
No, it takes a village.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't want to
yes.
get too distracted. I don't want to get too distracted. Can everyone just visualize for a second if we somehow built an arch where sort of Family Britches is and you just went down King Street in all the way down to Bell and just kept on going? Oh, it would be amazing. It would be amazing. You know, I think it'd be terrific.
It
I
would
think,
be
I think New
amazing.
York State DOT would love us. Yeah, sure. They're on board.
Ike, for the
Yes.
fireworks, I'm definitely on board with you exploring that. I don't know that the rec field is actually enough room. We need to be really far away from those fireworks to make sure people don't get injured. I'm thinking maybe Gedney is better to put them kind of all the way in the back by the ball fields and then have people gather sort of further up. I just want to make sure, I'm just worried from a safety perspective.
So these are all the things that we've discussed so far. If we did it on, it'd be one of those things where if we did it on rec field, people wouldn't be sitting on rec field. It would be, you know, if we shoot them off at rec field, we have people at the train station watching them there. If we shoot them off at the train station, we have people at rec field. You know, we're kind of going back and forth. Gedney is a discussion. The issue we run in with Gedney is parking.
Right.
And
Parking, and
traffic.
it's
Control there,
hard to get people from point A to point B, you know, in the dark.
Yeah.
I do have the maps that the school district gave us for the proposed locations when they did fireworks 2 years ago at graduation.
Mhm.
And actually their preferred location, unsurprisingly, was to set them off on rec field as opposed to school property. We pushed them onto school property because it was a school event. But certainly rec field was their preferred location.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah,
you
those-
couldn't see them. They weren't actually that effective because when people were in the parking lot, you actually couldn't really see the fireworks at all.
Well, you had to stay in your cars, right?
Yeah, but you couldn't see the fireworks so well because of the trees and things like
Trees.
that. So,
Right, but the point is that you don't, we wouldn't have the limitation of people being in their cars. But
right.
we don't need to
We'll
solve this
figure it
right
out.
now.
I feel
Yeah.
like if you swap it, it might actually work well to shoot it off in the, because it causes a lot of residue too, to shoot it off in the parking lot and have everyone kind of be able to sit with blankets and things like that on rec field might be nice.
Right, we have issues with Metro North and our ability to keep it far away. We'll work it out. This
Yeah.
is, you know, as long as the board, you know, tells us that they're supportive of the activity, we'll work out the details.
Absolutely. Sounds like
Yeah.
a great idea.
Have,
Excellent, thank you.
like, I did want you to just mention to the board about the tents that we're purchasing, that we're planning on purchasing.
For camp, yes. Yeah, when we get to the camp
Yeah,
discussion,
that's,
I was gonna throw that in there.
and I just explain also, just to wrap up the special programs here, the developmentally disabled line, what we, that's for the Rangers, correct?
That's with Northeast Special Rec.
Recreation, yeah.
Yes, so we partner, we are a supporting municipality of Northeast Recreation. You know, all the participating municipalities, we serve on their board of directors. And so that's where that expense goes to, is we help supply a, programming for those residents that are developmentally disabled. By being part of this program, it gives them an opportunity for summer camps and special programs, and they use our facilities through Northeast. It's really a great partnership. And the expense has basically stayed the same for the last few years. And we get charged based on how many of our residents participate with Northeast and with their programming.
Great, thanks, Hank.
Yep.
Next, skip over to youth athletics.
I don't think there's any real big changes here. See if I have anything really in my.
I think that last expense line, the youth athletics special projects, I think that's where, why did we reduce that? Was that the use of the basketball, use of the school for the basketball program?
No, that's the rental expense, that 3,700.
No, I'm talking that last line, the youth athletics.
No, I know.
special project.
The youth athletic special projects is actually the money right now that we still use to pay for the use of the church for summer camp.
Sure, okay. Yeah,
That's where that money comes out of. But that's where that 86,000 used to be for the school. So that 20 grand is for the right now covers the church.
Because we didn't need the, I don't think we knew
No,
what.
we didn't.
It,
Yeah, when we originally, I think that was, we were going to still use the school partially, I think, and. when
right. We were going to use one of the schools.
Yeah, and
exactly
we ended
right.
up using
Not
Amsterdam
using it,
instead.
right.
Just two notes for youth athletics. Obviously, our flag football program, as I previously mentioned, had a huge turnout this year. Has been a big success so far. And fingers crossed, hopefully nothing changes over the next month or two. We will be having our youth basketball program will be back this year. We got the green light from the school district. So we're in the process. Registration will open for that on November 1st. So we're really excited back and being able to offer that to our residents. But that's really it with youth athletics. No big changes as far as the budget goes there.
All right. Jump over to the camps.
All right, camp. As we spoke about before we got started, the hope is that we can be back to full capacity with summer camp in 2022, and that we'll be able to offer on-the-go travel camp as well. That would be great if we can get back to that next year. So the budget reflects that. The budget reflects us being able to get back to full capacity. We did the same thing last year. Coming into 2021, we didn't, obviously we didn't open up to full capacity, so our budget numbers will reflect that. We don't have our expenses aren't as high as we had projected. So, but a couple of things to note with camp, we will be back at Amsterdam again for our camp adventure. It's been a great location for us so far. People really enjoy it up there. Staff likes it. So, but the things with that going forward, the last 2 years, we've rented tents. This is what Joe wanted me to mention. We've rented tents at Camp Adventure for the last 2 summers.
Yep.
And it works out to be, it costs us around $9,400 for the summer to rent the 3 tents up there. My request to Jill and Rob was to purchase these tents instead. We would store them at Amsterdam, and park staff would set them up. The initial cost for these tents is, we got an estimate of $17,100. So basically, after the second summer, they'll pay for themselves, and we won't have that $10,000 expense every summer to rent the tent. So I felt it would be a little more economical and just make more sense that we would have the tents, we would take care of them. And as far from an expense standpoint, it would get rid of that after the second year. They basically paid for themselves. And then the other thing, expense we added was picnic tables. We keep robbing parks to pay camp. Basically, we steal all our picnic tables from the parks throughout the summer for that 6 weeks to cover the need at Camp Adventure. I would like to purchase 25 new picnic tables. At an average, they're about $300 a piece, works out to about 7,500. And then these picnic
Where do you
tables,
store those? You're gonna get 25 picnic tables as the big wooden, long benches on each side type tables?
well, that's what I priced it out for, was the 8-footers. Just
Do you
because
leave them out all season, or do you restore them away and 20, or you just leave the 25 out somewhere wherever they may be?
well, and that's why I was looking at the ones that the 8-footers that we have at all of our other parks, because once camp is over and the way our increase in rentals have gone, these tables we can spread out. We can put more at the shelter in the back of Kedney, more at the gazebo of Kedney. We can put 1 or 2 here, at the gazebo by Rec Field, out at Smith Park. So we'll be able to spread them throughout the system and use them. And that's kind of why I was looking at going with what we currently have there. Instead of buying the 6-foot all wood ones, we would go with the 8-foot with the metal frame and the wood benches, basically, is what this is priced for. Does that make sense? I feel like I rambled.
I get it. I get it. And not to get too caught in the weeds, are they, what's the longevity, we'll use that word, of these as they sit out exposed? Well, because 25 seems like a lot, but I'm just curious how often we need to buy new ones.
We'll easily get 8 to 10 years out of them. And we've actually, because again, hats off to our park staff. When they start to show that wear on the top and almost start to not quite rot, but they're not looking great. We've done it actually with all of our picnic tables over the last 2 years. Is they bring them in and plane them down.
Oh, great.
And then resand and restain. So it's almost like a new board again. So then we extend the life another 3 to 4 years.
Great. Thanks
So-
for.
Yep. I think those were the two big additions for camp. Try to see if there's
All right,
anything
we'll move
else.
on.
Yeah, I think that was it. I don't know if anybody has any questions with camp or comments, concerns. No? Excellent. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Right, next page is for the teens. I think really the only line is the teen supplies. I'm not sure, was this typically where the ski trips are charged, or?
Sorry, I had you on mute there for a second.
It's okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's what that expense is for the ski trips. And actually with, now that we have Jamie on board, that's one of the areas that she's going to focus. Obviously her responsibilities are changing a little bit right now with Doug leaving. She's going to handle his programs for the immediate future. But one of the reasons why we brought her on is to really focus on trying to target that middle age kind of teen group. It's really it's a moving target for all rec departments, I think. But we're really going to try to focus on finding something that they like on a regular basis. I know we can't compete with Starbucks in town, but we'll do our best.
All right,
So that's-
jump to adult recreation.
Okay, I'm sorry, so what is so has there been no money spent out of that line for this year?
The teens?
Yeah.
No, nothing
has
to
not.
date.
All right, so what's adult rec?
You think you're gonna carry it over? I'm sorry.
It doesn't carry over, but I mean, we've
I
included
don't mean
those funds.
literally, I get that. I mean, you don't think it's gonna be spent?
I don't know. I don't think we're planning to run it typically there are no ski trips in November, December, correct? I don't know if you have any other teen programs that you have on tap.
We don't have anything on tap right now, and the ski trips are usually January, February.
Okay, so
The problem,
okay.
what usually happens is we take the revenue in the year before, basically November, December, when we open up registration. And then the expense goes out in January, February with the trips and the busing.
Right.
Thank you.
So when would we announce so is that the plan this year as well?
What's that? Yeah, if we run the ski trips, that would be the plan, yes.
All right, go ahead, Rob. I mean, Ike, please continue. Hello?
Yep.
We've got adult rec up now, like.
No big changes here. We got back, we ran a full adult softball program this year, full league. So it's good to have everybody back there. But no big changes in this line. They're really the new basketball court is getting a lot of use, and the Tuesday night adult basketball has been great. We're steadily averaging 20 plus guys there on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, I get such positive feedback. I mean, I congratulate Rob Greenstein for really pushing on this, making this a big important development for the town. It seems to be really a fan favorite.
It is in constant use.
And Jeremy, I'll note one thing, and I always laugh about it. I started working here in 2007 and became the controller in 2011. And that basketball court was a placeholder in the capital project schedule for every single year that I had been here. And it was finally pushed forward with you and Ike and Rob. And
Yeah, we got, I mean, listen, we got a lot of money, unfortunately, from SAM grants, from a lot of our assemblyman, our senator, but it was a group effort, but it turned out terrific. So thank everybody.
No, it was far longer than that in the making. I got to tell you, 30
well,
years in.
I don't know before I got here, but I know it's been there. It was on the schedule when I started here.
If you recall, I mean, we had a big issue just about that hill of what used to be formerly dirt that there's now trees, about whether we should remove it, and there's a lot of issues that popped up, but it happened, and it was a team effort. But
Yeah,
Rob,
no, fabulous. Yeah.
So.
And I have to tell you, the new playground also constant use.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a big hit.
Yeah, fabulous.
Amazing how much
Fabulous.
use that is on a daily basis.
All right, go
Okay.
ahead.
Like just a couple more pages for you, senior recreation here.
No big changes line for going into 2022. And just if we can kind of combine the senior rec and our social services, I'm actually going to, Christine, if you don't mind, just to talk about some of the programs that we've done this year and some of the grants and things like that we've that Bess has really been, this kind of combines into our social services line as well. Rob, if you don't mind, if I kind of hit them both at the same time, but
yep, that's fine. I just put that one up there too.
Yeah, I think it's just worth noting what's been going on over there and what Bess has been working on. So I'm actually going to rotate the screen and let Christine kind of talk to you guys about that real quick, and then I think we're almost done after that.
And thank you, Christine. Give you enough props too. Thank you for what you do as
Maybe
well.
I'm just Bess has been working really hard, providing some outreach programming, from scamming to Alzheimer's to just getting people to come out. And for those who can't, she's still offering it via Zoom. So that meat bar that was installed at the center, it's really been great because we still can reach out to those participants that just aren't able to come see us or that aren't comfortable still coming out. With COVID, we've been, and I don't have a total, but it's definitely well over 30,000, maybe closer to 40 additional grants that the county and or state will be providing us. So I know Rob been kind of inundating James and Diana's email box with just some requests. We have to just prove some purchasing to be able to get that information out. But yeah, we're probably getting another additional $35,000 to $40,000. So it's a lot of paperwork on Bess's end, but she's worked really hard and she's been a great asset to the town.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has questions or anything, but that kind of, just a quick, figured tying them both together would be, would just make sense.
Yeah, and so that concludes all of the departments under Parks and Recreation. So if anybody has any general questions for Ike, now is the time.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to state for whomever watches this, that the Rec Commission is in an interesting position because they have sort of two, I hate to use the term two masters, but two people that two groups are answerable to. They have the commission, which technically sort of instructs them, if you will, and the town board, which technically is the funding of whatever's done. So it's a weird position because it puts them in a bind. Not that there's conflict necessarily, but it makes them have to answer to two groups, pardon me. So I appreciate what you guys do. And I think we've made a lot of progress over the past few years. So thank you all.
Yeah, that's been great. Listen, the support that we constantly get from you guys, from the town board, from Jill and Rob, really gives us the flexibility to do what we need to do to make sure that not only our programming, but the facilities are where they're at, or going to get to where they need to be. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Any further questions, or we let them go? Spread your wings and fly. Go. Thank you.
Thank you, Ike and Chris.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
All right, we ready for the next?
Oh, Josh, he's here.
Josh there?
Oh,
That's
he
so
was.
formal. Look at
Now
that.
he's
Like swoop
Oh my
in.
God. Woo. Unbelievable.
Welcome, our town.
You're not getting a raise, forget it.
Out of all our town assessors, you're our favorite one.
Well, and you guys are my favorite town board for sure.
All
Okay,
right,
so
let's start this.
awesome.
Josh, do you have anything you want to share, or would you like me to put your budget up? I've been typically sharing it, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Rob.
Sure. Page 77, if you're following along on a hard copy or anything else.
All right, got it. So if you'd like, I can just touch on some of the changes year over year. And then if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. We run a pretty lean ship. It's basically salaries and paper clips. You'll notice that the longevity went up. Denise qualified for longevity this past year. Our tax mapping contract went up by about 5%. That contract is good for 3 years. And they do a great job for us as far as tracking our meets and bounds and our tax map preparation and help with any type of deeds that we would request. That's about it for that page. If we go 0490, we were able to reduce the contractual services from 50,000 down to 25,000. And that was mainly due to the appraisal, pre-trial appraisal that we had booked in 2021 for the Whippoorwill Country Club. So now we'll be back to where we normally are for our contractual services.
Have not budgeted much money in this line. This is on a year-to-year basis. If we feel like any of the larger tax certs are going to require an appraisal, that's where it gets charged.
Correct. And this year we had anticipated 2. Mount Kisco Country Club, which we just settled. The town board passing the resolution last week. And it looks like this one will not be done in 21. So, which leads me to our other big change. We go to A 1964 0700. We were able to reduce our property tax refunds down from 150,000 back to 100,000, which is where we typically budget for a year to year. Most years we don't reach that, but with the way that the courts are adding cases to the calendar, as they have been accelerated over the past few years, we'd like to have a little cushion just in case that would.
Josh, let me just
Comes
ask a
up.
question about this line. So this is if someone challenges their taxes and it determines that they overpaid and the town is, for lack of a better term, refunding them money?
That is correct. And so what
So-
happens when you have a tax certiorari, you can have years that accumulate. And so you might have 3 or 4 years at issue, and then each of those years you would have exposure.
So I know we've discussed this before and I know the answer, but to be clear, when someone challenges their taxes and it's reduced, that tax burden doesn't just go away, it's just reshifted to other taxpayers in the community in terms of property taxes, correct?
That is correct.
So when this happens, just to be clear, we're not then making up that money on the next year. Rob, this is set aside an expectation of a recalibration of someone's taxes.
It is, right. This actually ends up becoming an expense. It's kind of twofold, because in the following year, it will then reduce the assessment, which means the burden will be spread to other taxpayers, and we take a hit in the current year in the form of an expense. I will tell you, if you look back, we typically include 100,000 because we're just trying to be conservative, and sometimes you just can't anticipate what will come down the pike. This year we increased it to 150 because we did know we had really 3 large outstanding one, the 2 golf courses and Masa Hala, Josh, was the other one.
Right, 96 Shuther.
Yeah, but if you look in the prior year, 2019 and 2020, you look at the actual 4,300 one year and 1,700 the other year. That's really a testament to Josh and his department and how accurate they've been as far as assessing, because we have rarely issued large returns. And the golf courses, Josh explained, I think last week or the week before at the executive session, those are a result of the way that after that court case, of the way that they're valuing golf courses. It was you're going to see a lot of municipalities hit with this. We're not unique in this aspect, but I think the fact that we've had very minimal tax certs, and when there are reductions, Josh has been able to, when we have small claims reductions, Josh has been able to get those taken care of prior to the taxes going out, so they don't become refunds. They're just the reduction in the assessments reflected before the bills go out, and the town doesn't issue a refund. So it has been great working with Josh. He's been extremely accurate in being able to predict these things, and that's very helpful to me.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Josh.
That pretty much concludes all of the notable changes from my budget year over year. Are there any questions with regard to anything we touched on?
Yeah, Judge, I have a question on your meal allowance there. You went $12 over when you bought dinner for the Board of Assessment Review. We're going to need you to look a little closer next time.
Well, I always have a small salad and a glass of water. It must have been somebody else that ordered the surf and turf.
Must have been a heck of a party, but I'm sorry I missed it.
It always is.
Anything else you want to keep on sharing or share? Josh, anything else?
That's it for me.
All right. I just want to say thank you, Josh. I know you are either the devil or a god, an angel.
Nothing in between.
Yeah, right, exactly. Do they love you for fixing it, or they think you're hurting them intentionally? So thank you. It's not an easy job. We really appreciate it, and you're always so receptive to the town board whenever we have questions about things we just simply don't understand or not familiar with, or just need clarity. So thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm always happy to help. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Have a good one.
Okay, bye.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Carrie.
Gary?
It's us.
Gary,
Hey, it's
Hey.
Lyle.
Gary, you're lazy. You don't do anything. You never help around.
Right.
Oh, I just sleep in front of the computer.
Literally.
Go ahead, take it away.
Okay. Let me just share my screen.
Oof. Rob, you've been replaced.
I have been replaced
Okay.
by the masters at Zoom. and
Yeah.
screen
Yeah, only
sharing.
problem is, Carrie, do you have the presentation? Oops, hang on.
Oh, I didn't have it handy.
That's all right, hang on.
Is this where you impress us with your AV skills?
I've lost them all.
No pressure, no pressure.
I mean, that's always the case. We spend so much time on everybody else's website.
Right.
Ours doesn't get
There you
the.
go.
Yeah, well, what happened is my computer blew up.
I'll find it, Lyle.
Yeah, if you can, Carrie, rather than
Okay.
try to get permissions.
I don't know if Rob, you need to do an introduction for us or anything.
Okay, I will. I'll,
No time. Keep it
I'll
going.
improv.
Actually,
while,
I can
others
cover a
speak.
couple things while Carrie's setting up. Just so you know,
Let me
this is-
just,
go
Lyle,
ahead.
I'll preface, and I mentioned this last night when we talked about the 1680, the IT services line, and the annual appropriation under the town board line. So what Lyle and Carrie are about to present is the actual operating budget and what NCCMC does with the funds. Everything that they will talk about hasn't been incorporated into this year's budget. So while we spoke of the increase last night, there's no additional increase over where we are right now. So this has all been anticipated already. It's included in the budget, and Lyle and Carrie will help to break down each of the budget categories for NCCMC.
Yeah, this is day 606 of the COVID crisis. Just if anybody's counting. And oh, there we go. Carrie, just turn the view on the left. There you go, even better. You want to go to the first page?
Oops,
So this is-
sorry.
Well, that's okay.
Okay.
Boy, we really look good as media professionals. We really screw this up. We get, so today's 606, things have really been quite interesting over the last year and a half, as you guys certainly know. Just for background, I'm not going to go through all these, but we have basically two operations within NCC. One is the baseline services we provide as a public access station. And the funding for those come from a piece of the franchise fees that are paid by Altice and Verizon. And that's about $129,000 a year. The other part is the web services we provide the town. We run a number of websites for you. We publish a newsletter. We manage indoor and outdoor signs. We also do a lot of IT related stuff, applications. When the town went electronic, we built the booking system. We also have a registry for senior citizens online, a do not knock one, vacant storefront to handle that. And most recently, we put the pickleball booking system in. So that was very exciting. The other thing, by the way, just I heard last night that we were talking about the garbage calendar system. That's something we could do very easily with the technology we already have. So if you want to have something where people can call, look up their street address and get the days, we can certainly help you guys set that up. We also pay about $19,000 on behalf of the town for web-related services.
Lyle, just to back up on that for a minute, because I don't want to just drop that there and then create some confusion. Would you also do all the due diligence for all the regional recycling opportunities?
No, we wouldn't do that.
The same kind of tool, right? You're talking about like a simple tool that is just a pickup calendar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a question of scope.
Right. And would you also like deliver the informatics for what people searched when?
Oh yeah, definitely. We do that now.
But they have it. Yeah.
at least for the other applications. Let's see, so the web services is, become a big part of what we do. Carrie, you want to go to the next page? And COVID's really impacted us. As you know, we have for a one-person operation. You're looking at her, not me, but Carrie. And since COVID started, it's really changed how we operate. We've actually doubled the number of recorded meetings. And in addition to that, the complexity of meetings has probably more than doubled, but at least doubled with the hybrid meetings we've been doing. And that's quite a complex operation to run. And actually, in a normal world, we require 2 people to run one of those meetings. That's where you have part of it in the, let's say, assembly room or one of the conference rooms, and part of on Zoom. It's a real challenge. We've doubled the number of newsletters. I should say we also doubled more than doubled the readership, thanks to all the good stuff going out from everybody. And that's gone up from about a half day a week to almost with all solicitation we do to everybody in town, the historical society or the various other groups. It's anywhere between a day and a half to 2 days a week. And we have a freelancer that's helping out doing that, so that at least keeps some of the pressure off Carrie. We've done a lot of webinars.
Can you tell me how many subscribers we have for the
We're
newsletter?
about 6,200. And we go up and down. We lose about 10 a week and gain about 10 a week. Our readership has gone down a little bit since COVID. We've been running during the kind of the crisis, about 55% readership. I think we're down right now to about 36% that actually read it. You should compare that with other newsletters. They generally run about 18 to 20%. So it's still, very popular, in town.
I was excited when you told me that I eclipsed Rob Greenstein's readership.
You did, both
was-
in terms of amount and percentage. And you told him that, right?
I don't know if I have, but I certainly will.
Oh, you got to remind him. As far as the meetings, special meetings, we've done about 2.5 million minutes of Zoom with various meetings and all these other interactive meetings. So it's a fair amount. I think most of you know what all these are, so I'm not going to repeat them all for you. The other thing you may not be aware of is we also spent last year quite a bit of capital money automating things. We put the Zoom boards in. We have one in the rec center that's used for training. We got the one that I think you've all seen in the conference room for Zoom. We also did a big production control upgrade in the assembly room. And then we also invested about $50,000 in CPAC to put in a new broadcast production system there, wood cameras throughout it. And I think you've seen a couple the form-based code meetings, et cetera. Mentioned before, we've done a number of new IT applications and continue to do that. And then Carrie's been doing a lot of just general tech support for the town, questions, surveys, electronic surveys, Zoom, just other stuff that's come up. And so we're basically swamped, is the bottom line in all this. And we need to give Carrie a little bit of relief. I think I mentioned last year, but Carrie's been working probably a 50, 60, 70-hour week, almost every night. And then during COVID, I was running about 40 hours a week. So, it's time we start paying for, not paying for me, but paying for somebody, because I can't do it anymore. Carrie, you want to go next page? So we used to have 3 people, and our budget has been substantially cut from 2013. As I said, the meetings have, tripled. What we want to do is add back a full-time equivalent, one, not 3 people or 2 more people, but basically for 2 reasons. One is to relieve Carrie and provide a backup for her. I mean, right now, if she goes on vacation or gets sick, we are out of business. We don't have any backup for her right now. The full-time equivalent, we put that in that statement, just, we don't know whether it's going to be 1 full-time person or 2 part-timers. We'll see what we can find in the market. And the result is in a net budget increase of about $35,000 a year for salaries and benefits. We expect to pay more for the person, or persons, but we can, have some of it we can handle within our current budget, and the rest we'll have to add on. Carrie, next page. So this is a summary really of the costs. The left 2 columns is our actual budget. We came in a little bit under budget this year. Next year, we're looking at a consolidated budget. That includes the baseline stuff coming in from Altice and Verizon and the web services, about $216,000. And you can see how that splits out, between the 2 services. And I think the biggest change is obviously in personnel. So that is basically us. So it's really a chance for you guys to ask any questions. I think the big project coming up in the short term, just so you know, is we're going to upgrade the audio in the assembly room. It was last upgraded about 13 years ago. It's actually the first project I worked on with Carrie, and it's time. So, and that'll actually help save some the work, the back room there. So that's where we are.
This is great. I think should be obvious to everyone how you all have risen to the occasion in some extraordinary times to provide what is now clearly critical infrastructure for Newcastle to continue doing business, as well as allow the community to be engaged and participate in that business, and provide them, with all the communication tools that they need. So I really think NCCMC provides an extraordinary service for the community that and the town at pretty great value. So when we think about resiliency of infrastructure, this is all pretty straightforward to me, right? We can't have infrastructure that we are entirely dependent on for our continued function. And I think our new way of functioning going forward, independent of COVID, really appreciating the level of accessibility that it gives people that they didn't have before, that we need to continue, that hinging that very critical infrastructure on one person, as extraordinary as that one person is not good business for the town. So this is very straightforward to me.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I think the other advantage of getting some additional help is that where we dropped service has been to the rest of the community. We used to produce a lot of public programs. We do a lot less of that now. So it'd be nice to get some of that going again. We do the Ragamuffin Parade, for example, but there's other stuff we could do, like zoom around town, as Lauren remembers, that sort of thing. So, but thank you, Lori.
And Lyle, I just want to point out to the board too, I think it was on that last slide you had, Carrie, but just, we're talking about funding NCCMC. I'm not sure if everybody understands that we get about $400,000 to $450,000 a year from franchise fees from Altice and from Verizon. So, we've typically given back, about a quarter to a third of that to NCCMC, depending on the year, the budget, the you know, that number was higher many years back. It was reduced at some point in time, and so, you know, that affects what they are able to provide. So when you just keep in mind that, you know, the rest of the difference between that 400 to 450 and the 129, you know, that goes into the town's coffers, into the general fund for their revenue. So, you know, I think it's very important that we have increased funding, and it's included in the budget, and we did it this year. There's no question that Carrie can't continue to do this by herself. But I just want to point out that, you know, this is money that has come from the franchises in order to run this station. And, you know, we're just now restoring a little bit of the funding that had been a little bit higher in the past, which will hopefully help provide more services.
More resiliency.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the other part of the funding that's come from the franchises is the capital grants, which has been over the last 15 years, almost $1 million, which is pretty much all gone back into the town. A little bit to the library, a little bit to CPAC, but mostly to town of Newcastle. And you know, that's all the cameras, all the production equipment, all the sound systems, everywhere.
And also, it is what made it possible to work with one employee for so long, because we automated as many things as we possibly could. But the new hybrid meeting model is labor intensive, and there's just no shortcut around that right now. So.
Yeah, and I don't see that ending anytime soon.
No, I mean, and honestly, even when we're out of this, you know, we've heard so much from the public that if you can't get a babysitter, if you can't do this, I mean, you can still participate, and we can continue this, you know, once we have the equipment and the manpower to offer it as, you know, going forward. We might wind up having more people in person, you know, but still just having that ability, senior citizens, you know, more people can participate. So
people have a choice. I'm surprised, actually, you know, to Lisa and Lori's point, is how the town has accepted this in a very positive way. You know, we've had very, very few complaints. We've only had a challenge of one board, and but everybody else loves it, and just the flexibility.
I think the public very much, I'm sorry, Carrie, I think the public very much appreciates the efforts that were made to keep them connected.
I was just going to say also, I mean, I think we are one of the few stations that were able to really jump ahead with it. Because, I mean, you know, between Rob, Jill, when Ivy was a supervisor, we knew something was going to have to happen. So we took a long time to get in place. I mean, we started getting quotes last January, and we're able to get all the equipment in. But that was why the governor had changed the rules, because most communities could not offer a hybrid situation. So I think we're definitely on the right track in that aspect.
Just one last thing for me. We are looking for new board members. So if you guys know of anybody that would like to join NCCMC, it's a commitment. We have one meeting a month, Thursday afternoon, late Thursday afternoon, but via Zoom. But just send us an email. Let us know.
If you have
Like,
a graphic promoting the opportunity, we can amplify it for you.
Yeah, we're going to put something actually in the newsletter and also in the boards and commissions section of the website. So,
Great.
yeah,
And are you guys willing to take student members?
we can't. They
Well,
have to. They have to
as
be
board-
legal.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
For their bylaws.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
They have to be legal adult residents according to our bylaws
So
to
if
be
they're
board
18,
members, but they could certainly attend. So they're always welcome. Anybody's welcome.
okay.
We've had volunteers from the high school before, had some excellent ones. And that's always positive. One thing on the, like doing the nightly meetings, we try to do with volunteers in the past. It pressures too much, you know, and you guys know what those meetings, some of those meetings could be like. You can guess what it's like in the back office there trying to produce it. We don't want to screw it up. So, but for other things, definitely. Love it.
Okay, great.
Any other questions for Carrie and I? Well, thank you. Thank you all for your support.
Thank you guys for everything you
all your
do.
hard work. You're seriously rock stars.
Yeah.
He's right.
Lyle,
You
Lyle,
are.
during COVID, Lyle, you were not you're not now, but you were a godsend, and you were really helpful, and you made this communication happen. And Carrie, I say the same thing to you. And Carrie has carried us so much, and me personally, very late at times, unfortunately, at all hours and all days, making, getting things done. So I'm incredibly grateful. You guys really are hands-on and are fabulous. So thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
But get back to work, Carrie.
Thank you.
So I-
Rob?
Yeah, I think that ends our department head meetings. Typically, we have a final discussion, and the board can correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't heard any situations where a board member has either wanted to include anything, or I should say add anything to the budget, or remove anything from the budget. And this is typically the time that we would talk about that, or if it was a personnel situation or a contractual situation, we could go into
executive, right?
Does the board have any interest in discussing anything like that?
We did discuss a line for the CRE.
Oh yeah, we can discuss that further. We discussed this, I don't have to repeat our conversation, but has anyone given any thought to that? Jill, any further thought? Lisa, Lauren, any further thought?
No, Lori, is there a proposed list or a list of proposed activities with costs that are identified right now that we would, create a specific budget line for?
So the only one that I'm aware of was a recommendation for a Unity in the Community Festival, which had a very, very big budget. So I think that there hasn't been a discussion about costs associated with prioritized activities and event planning, et cetera.
Do you have any idea as to what the estimated cost was and what that breakdown looks like?
If I remember the ballpark from the proposal, it was about $70,000.
70.
Very big.
Do you know
It was
what?
very big.
Yes, but I'm curious. We several years ago we did the Middlewood 200 celebration, and it was a huge event in Gedney, and the price tag was nowhere near that. So I am just curious.
Yeah, so here they were talking about having an outside production company come in and run the event, that it wouldn't, so many of the things that we're doing are cobbled between volunteers and town staff, right, conducting an event. So that was something that they had on their list. That's the only one that I know of that had an estimated cost associated with it. That doesn't mean that that's what their budget line should be.
Right. And I am curious
that, that for them to do anything, they need funding. And I think that for the town to make a legitimate commitment to this exercise, budget line would accomplish that in part. I mean, I think that, what seems reasonable and feasible for ongoing event costs is probably something, to start. I was thinking more along the lines of $5,000 to start, as they, have some resources to do programming, planning, and get themselves up and running, and really prioritize the initiatives that they had proposed, given that we started with a pretty tremendous list of possibilities. That hasn't really been stratified and organized into, where to begin.
Right. So
that would be the exercise of the incoming board.
Right. And I mean, we have incorporated, some things, and they're significant things, I think, just with the fact that we don't, we used to automatically appoint people to boards and commissions. And now we don't do that anymore. As soon as somebody's term is up, we take and we open it up to make sure that people know that these positions are available, and trying to welcome new members into our community and diverse members into these boards and commissions. And I think that's tremendously significant for starting to dust off that welcome mat and making sure that it's not just, in the window, but actually used. The same thing with the chief putting on the community advocate / liaison position that is now up on his website. We're accepting applications for it. We would love it to be an active and viable option for people to feel more welcome if they have issues with the police, so that they know that we're serious about their concerns and their issues, and we want to make sure that there are no roadblocks, perceived or otherwise, to them being able to pursue those complaints or those.
Let me just hop in for a second, please.
Sure.
So I had not discussed this with Lori, but I was actually thinking that $5,000 would be appropriate, because we look at what was done, and I think it turned out terrific with the beautification budget. Went from like $500 and now it's multiples
20,
more.
yeah.
And not that necessarily there was plans for everything to do when those dollars were designated. It kind of evolved. So I think in the whole scheme of things, when we invested so much human capital in this, and you're correct, there's a lot of things that the town is doing.
Mhm.
What's $5,000 that we know?
I have no issue with
Hey, we want to advertise something, whether it's in the community or outside, and we need some dollars. And if it's not successful, it doesn't have to be maintained. But I just think it's a seed money for something that we put so much time into.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any issue with it. $5,000 is fine. I just I do think that we have staff who are fabulous at events. Although I understand if you're, if you're not familiar with the way a municipality works, you might think that you need to go out and spend money on a production company to be able to put on a world-class.
Right, that's separate. That's distinct. I agree. That's
No.
Yeah.
Right. No. I have no problem with it. If you guys want to earmark it, it's fine. It's just, it's fine. It's just, the board as a whole had moved away from earmarking monies for a specific for a specific committee. We had originally a budget line just for the Arts and Culture Committee. We took and we, moved away from that, and we incorporated it all told so that everybody would understand that everybody was welcome to it. If you think it sends a particular message, that's
I think just personally, I agree with Lori, and I don't put words in her mouth. I think just there's been no committee that I'm aware of in my time here that had so many volunteers for one purpose.
Clearly not, right?
And spent the human capital for one purpose. The Arts and Culture Committee is a valuable committee too, much smaller, doing a lot of good things. But this was a complete
watershed event, clearly.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, right, that I envision is that, as the committee matures, they'll explore and capitalize on the synergies with the town staff and with the other committees, with the other boards in the community, and the rec commission and the PAC, and and all of the resources that we have that will contribute to their ability to do programming and share resources to facilitate programming. This is really about them getting launched.
So I think it's a bit of semantics. I don't have a problem with the CRE having funds earmarked for them. I think whether it's in their own line or knowing they can use it from the boards and committees line, I think it's a bit of semantics if they know it's available to them anyway. And obviously, like any committee, before funds are expended, they still have to come to the board to get that approved. So to me, if we want to have their own line, I don't have a problem with it. They should know, though, everyone on that committee, that obviously the town board is behind sponsoring events around diversity and inclusion, and we certainly want to foster that. Rob, were you thinking if we do this that the 5,000 would just come out of the boards and commissions line?
Well, so that was the
that,
question
like
I,
5,000 would be earmarked and that 15,000 would go down to 10?
that was the question I had for you, and that's easier for me if we do it that way, because then I don't have to recalculate all the tax figures, but doesn't matter. I've done it for many years. I can do it again if you want to add
Well,
$5,000.
Rob, can we take it out of town board special projects?
I can take it, I can
Use
shift
that
it from,
from
Sure,
20, because I'd like to leave the boards and commissions with the, I mean, I think that this is going to be a year where, you know, I'm hoping that our boards and commissions are going to feel that they have license to, you know, sort of spread their wings. You know, everybody's been cooped up for the past 2 years
Yep.
and they
Mhm.
just want to do things. And I would hate to cut their funding and make them feel like, oh, there isn't that much money there anymore. So I really would like to preserve that. So I'm fine with the 5,000.
I
coming
can,
from another
I can
source,
take
but-
it from special projects and create a board, a general ledger code for CRE. Lori, would you have a recommendation on what you want that titled? The CRE events or how, anything that you want?
I think you would just call it that committee, right?
Yeah.
As we've done
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
past.
Yeah, I think so. And Jill, I agree. I think not diminishing the resources of our other boards and commissions
Yeah,
is the
I
way to
just-
go here. Again, particularly because we're trying to signal the town is committed to this activity. We're not committed to this, you know, these initiatives at the expense of all of our other, of all of our other programming.
Right. And the committees should all understand that there are additional budget lines. And if it turns out that there are some, you know, amazing things that they want to do in the upcoming year, that the board is, you know, all ears and you know, we welcome this, you know.
Right.
Whatever they'd
And
like
it
to
may
do.
be able, certain events obviously can even come out of, you know, rec department special projects and special events. So there are ways that we can make sure to incorporate what needs to be done. I don't know that $70,000
No, that's
party's
just,
gonna
yeah.
make it this year, but I do think that there are ways, if any of the committees, including the CRE, want to spend more or have a great idea for an event or any sort of public outreach, we can find places within the budget, within our various departments that may want to contribute to that.
Right. And there are resources throughout the county that, like, you know, Ike has pipelines too, that we can secure stuff.
Exactly.
Here's my suggestion, unless anyone disagrees, as we develop the committee for the former CRE, we have this sort of symbolic seed money, this $5,000, so that ultimately they know it's usable for that their expenses in terms of what they want to do to go forward. Because of all the things that's happened previously, I think that's a great idea. And as this is developed and built out, we'll deal with it moving forward. But $5,000 is, I think, ample. At this point.
Awesome.
Fantastic, thank you.
While we're talking about committees, this doesn't really have anything to do with the budget. It's just in my head and I'll forget if I don't say it. We had a bunch of applications for open committees that we were going to revisit as of October 1st. Where are we on that?
So we have a couple of them that we're just going to have to schedule the board for interviews. Lisa, your committee is one of them, Arts and Culture. Tiffany, I know, forwarded you a couple of applications. We have done BAB, though there's some, I think Tiffany, tell me what other ones are floating around. Hold the ethics for 2 seconds, because that's actually a little bit different in the scheme of things. Tiffany, what other committees did we have?
The ERB. Let me look.
Because we also have the CRE committee.
Yep,
Right.
CRE. There's a couple of those as well. Right. So CRE, Arts and Culture, Ethics, ERB, and what was? Do you remember? I know Millwood Task Force just put in, and the Millwood West End Advisory Board just put in another request for volunteers. When Nicole Richey reached out to the people that we had appointed, a couple of the people turned out that they couldn't commit to the committee. So she had asked me, I think it was in last meetings.
Yep, and I gave her the names of a few people I know who are interested, who I know she's going to speak to.
Yes, as did I. So that's great. I bet they were some of the same people. Yeah, so we just have to take it and set up executive sessions. We haven't been so successful at getting additional meetings for the board. Just everybody's schedule and the form-based code has been, really monopolizing the board's time. So when we have tried to do additional meetings, even for the form-based code that we were hoping to take and tack executive sessions onto, we weren't so great at being able to secure the board. So hopefully moving forward, we can get a couple of additional meetings and we can get some interviews set up for the board. Okay.
Great.
Great.
Can we
That's
do,
what I-
can we then do kind of a last push, let's say, in the newsletter for the boards with openings to see if there's any other trees to shake for volunteers?
Sure. I know Rec Commission actually has an opening as well, so we'll be adding that. Okay, great. And I'll see how we did with our community liaison / advocate. So. And we're going to be doing, today I will be posting that, the job descriptions and the job application for our, I've been calling them the epic ambassadors at the chat pack.
So Jill, is the board application on the town website? Because
yes.
often the instructions are like email Jill Shapiro for an
Oh,
application.
no, there should be a
And,
link with it. Usually they just email me with
here it
questions.
is.
There's a
Yeah,
link
no.
there under the committee's site. There's a, there's a link on the website with the application.
Yeah, I just noticed for the police liaison one, that one didn't have a link. It was like email Jill Shapiro.
Right.
I think and at one point too, I thought that we might want to update our applications
Yeah.
form.
could-
'Cause There's just some questions on, the form is there. It could be updated.
Yeah.
Like where somebody went to high school, maybe it's not like
Yeah.
the most critical detail.
Yeah. And there was a time it didn't even have email address. So yeah. Couple things.
And
We'll-
then,
we'll take
and
a
then
check on
is it an online form or is it like?
Yeah.
I'm trying to
No.
remember.
It's an online form. Tiffany
can
and I
fill it out.
receive it electronically. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a typable form and we get it electronically. So that's the link that I'll just have to make sure that that the link is always in those little blurbs. Yeah.
Great. I know at one point I went through the form and kind of sent a bunch of feedback about the form because I think we were reviewing applications and for some reason I got like a blank form and I thought, oh, maybe the question is to review the form. And so I did.
No.
So,
Yeah.
so I'll try and pull that email out too, because
Okay.
and take a look at it again, because I know I had some thoughts about our application form.
Okay. Any other suggestions on the budget? Any thoughts? Okay, Rob, just want to remind the board what the upcoming schedule is going to be.
Sure. So with this one change that I will make, adding that budget line and moving funds from the special projects line, I will then update the current year to date and shift over the administrator requested lines over to the town board lines, and that will then become the preliminary budget. I will have that available electronically. I think at this point, there's not a need to create a hard copy of that. I will for the clerk's office. They need that to keep on file. But I don't think that since there's essentially no change from this budget, I don't think there's a reason to print, 200 pages times however many people. So that will become the preliminary version on the 10th. Jill, is that correct? That we will accept that as the preliminary budget and set the public hearing for November 30th on the budget. And
Check my schedule. That sounds right, though.
Jeremy, I believe it's November 18th. That it's the League of Women Voters presentation. I think that's usually about 10 o'clock in the morning. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it's usually,
you and I are doing that, and I advise them that, I don't know if the election will be certified by then or what the situation will be, whether someone else is appointed by then, but that I would not potentially be the supervisor at the acting supervisor at that time. So they're
Rob, I have it on the schedule for 9:30, November 18th.
9:30. Okay, November 18th. Yeah.
Thank you, Carrie.
So typically in the past, the current supervisor at the time has just offered kind of an introduction, and then I give the same budget presentation I will give at the public hearing. Whoever happens to be the supervisor is welcome to say as much or as little as they want, but my presentation will be based on what you all have seen over the last 2 days.
super. Thank you.
Thanks. One last question, Rob. If the board elects to participate in the Recycle Right or to choose the Recycle Right website service for the town, is that something that we need to include in the budget, or there are funds that would cover the cost of it?
I would say there's funds that would cover the cost of it. From what I recall hearing last night, it was $4,500 with the potential to have 50% of that reimbursed.
Yes.
Right.
So,
Yes.
yeah, I think we could find a budget line for that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think we're done with about a half hour to spare, which is great. And I don't know how you all feel. I feel like was one of the best budget meetings that I think that we've had. I just think it was easy. It was easy to present the information on the screen. I have struggled sometimes putting stuff up on a big screen, and I look at the font. I usually go in the room and look at it, and I sit far away and, oh, I've got to change that, make that darker. I can't read that from the back of the room. So I think it was all front and center here, and I don't know. It worked for me. I don't know if it worked for everybody else, but
Yeah, I think the Zoom setup for this sort of thing especially is really tremendously helpful. And I do think the fact that the staff has now gotten used to the fact that all of their budget preparations, that literally every single line is backed up by, documentation, and they can verify it all, means that they're that much more prepared when they come in to speak to the board. And I think that showed as well.
yeah,
Rob,
I definitely do. And we kind of, I think Jill and I, from the time, I guess you and I kind of got paired up 8 years ago or so together through this process, we were requiring that from the beginning with varying degrees of success. And I think everyone's on board now, and they know what to expect when they walk into the meeting with us. And, you heard many of the department heads say their budget is pretty lean, and that's a fact. When we ask them to quantify every expenditure, there's less room, there's less fluff, there's less, just throwing money into a line. Obviously, we have some lines that are very difficult to predict, snow removal, overtime, and things like that. But, we kind of look at that on a multi-year average and come up with what works. And some years you hit, and some years you miss, and some years you add to the fund balance, some years you take to the fund balance, and overall it ends up working out. So,
Rob, what I'd like you to do, I don't know if it was in the budget message, but you and I discussed it before. If you could just indicate somewhere possibly that the budget increase is what it is, but we had those specific huge increases from, for example, the Santa Pro,
Precious. Yeah,
and our significant decrease in dollars from parking, how these, are not things, well, the parking should come back a bit, but there's certain things that we could not have expected or planned for. And that for lack of a better term, in a normal year, the budget, would have not have gone up this much in terms of percentage. I mean, there's just unfortunate realities that were beyond our control.
yeah, that will absolutely.
It's not as if we spent reckless money on things that we didn't.
No. And I have to tell you that,
Right.
that the budget message actually, I thought highlighted that as best we could.
Did you
When
put
we
that
talked
in?
about the
Did you put
fact
that?
that when they were costs within our control, our increases were modest. But the things that weren't within our control, like the refuse, like the parking.
Right, I know we discussed, I don't remember seeing it. Did you put down the percentage in there, what it would,
Yes.
if you back that out? That was in the budget message?
Yep.
What
The
was?
refuse levy spiked by 19.41%.
No, that's
500,000.
that's not my question, is how that would have impacted the overall budget, not that just that the increase in that particular line, but if you pulled that out and in a normal increase as it's been year to date, that the budget would not have gone up that much. So that
Mhm.
19% increase, how did that impact the overall budget?
Right. Okay. You'll look and see if there's something else you
Maybe I'm
want.
mistaken.
Happy to put in.
I'll discuss it with
Yeah,
Rob.
Yeah, and Rob will highlight it.
Yeah, definitely. And had we not had to have that increase, the total budget, the total levy increase would have been 0.86%.
Yep.
So, and I think we highlight, and that will definitely be a focal point of my presentation, is to point out also, when you look at the general fund, you know, on a $12 million budget, we only increased that 1.83%. I think that was pretty responsible. The highway fund went up 1.07%, but you know, we talked about we're doing additional road paving. We hired an additional labor. There's some other costs that were involved there. So, right, overall, I think we've done, you know, we were able to reduce the tax burden on a couple of the special districts for residents that applies to. Sewer District 1, Sewer District 5, and the High Ridge Water District. All of those went down. I think one of the drainage districts too. Revort Drainage, maybe, or Lawrence Farms. One of those went down a little bit. So you'll see some of those residents will see actual decreases to offset some of those increases. I don't include that in the overall message because not everybody's in a sewer district. Not everyone's in a drainage district. In fact, very few compared to the whole town, very few residents are. But so there's definitely some offsets, but I will highlight that in my budget message.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll chat offline.
Great.
I was
Each
just
of the
gonna add-
department
sorry.
heads, I just want to say that each of the department heads, you know, did a really clear and comprehensive overview of all of their operations and changes. And we're obviously perfectly prepared for questions and follow-up details. So please deliver that feedback back to them, that we're really grateful for their preparedness for this exercise and all the hard work that they have done to keep our spending responsible while you know, creating resources and tools for the town that are invaluable.
Great, thank you. I'll pass that along.
So usually what happens is that Carrie will send out just a budget e-newsletter that just goes with the budget message and a link to the tentative budget, just so that the community is aware that this is where we are, because finances clearly and what people pay in property taxes is important to everybody. So I'll take and forward that to her, and that way it won't overburden the end of the week e-newsletter. Okay, so we'll get that clear today.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Okay, all
Yep.
right, great.
Thank you.
So we'll see everybody. Tiffany, what time are we starting tonight?
6:00.
6.
6? I thought it was
I think it's
6:30.
6:30.
30.
Hang on.
Wait, we're starting at 6:30?
I thought it
I
was
thought
6.
it's 6:30. Thank you, Rob, for all your hard work on this.
Yeah,
It
thank you.
says 6.
Fabulous job.
Yeah.
The invite I have says 6.
I have 6:30 on the, whatchamacallit, the agenda.
Yeah, the agenda says 6:30. Is there an exec session first?
No exec session?
No,
All right, so
wait, I just want to check the agenda. So.
And the invite I got this morning says 6 p.m. The Zoom.
Let me, I'll make sure I update the Zoom, because I think originally I usually plug in 6 o'clock as the default, but the agenda definitely says 6:30.
Okay, great. Yeah, I thought I had made it for 6:30. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, because the fellow from the NYSERDA is coming. Yeah.
Okay,
6:30.
yeah, we added that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay, sheesh.
Thank
All
you.
right, terrific. See everybody at 6:30
Move to
tonight.
adjourn?
Okay.
Do we have to move to adjourn?
I
Yeah,
move-
To
we need,
adjourn,
Oh,
second.
All in favor?
aye.
Bye.
perfect.
you.
Thank you guys so much.
Bye, everybody.
you.
Thank you.